Welcome to Refused Flank, a wargaming podcast exploring the intersection of competitive excellence and narrative storytelling potential.
Okay, welcome to Refused Flank. I am Grant.
And I'm Cam.
And we are finally doing the beloved battle between the Orcs and Goblins and the Dwarfs in Warhammer Fantasy Battle 6th edition. We just played this battle a few days ago as of recording. We had a third party kind of step in and play the side of the Dwarfs. Cam, you want to introduce that?
Yeah, so my friend John, he's an old wargaming friend from back home in the homeland, and he's one of the guys I grew up playing Lord of the Rings strategy battle game with, a lot of the earlier editions of Warhammer 40,000, and he lives out of state now, but he was here visiting, so it just worked out that he hopped in and played as the dwarf side. I sort of then acted as the referee and note taker so that we have notes of what actually happened throughout the game.
It was actually pretty helpful, I think.
Yeah, as we've talked about in previous episodes, having a referee or even just like a rules reference kind of person is helpful. Surprisingly, though, despite me being that third-person role, I think I took worse pictures this time, so we'll see how those turn out. But
exciting.
We tried a new thing, which was recording a video straight down over the table, so if that worked out, then you'll be seeing that on screen right now if you're listening on YouTube.
Yeah.
So if you're listening on Spotify or some other platform and you want to see that, you can check us out on YouTube. We're also just Refused Flank Podcast, and you can find us there, and you can see if you like that kind of a format. It's probably going to be sped up just to fit whatever time frame this episode ends up being, but you can kind of see how things unfolded that way as sort of a truncated version of a video battle report.
Yeah, I think that'll be something exciting, and then you guys will see at least a little bit of what happened. I know we posted some photos of our Lizardmen versus Empire 1, but now you'll be able to see the chronology of events maybe a little more clearly.
Yeah, and we'll get into this in a bit, but I think the most exciting part is when all of a sudden the squigs explode into all over the board, and in a sped up time-lapse version that will probably look pretty funny.
It indeed. I'm excited to see that too. So first things first, we both kind of had to edit our lists from the episode that we gave out an episode ago. I altered my list slightly because I had an illegal ratio of goblin handlers versus squigs, so I had to drop
herders, I guess they call them.
Yeah, thank you. I had to drop a squig who was 14 points, added another goblin into the unit. I added some netters into one of my spearman units, 3 of those, and then I just threw a bully on the stone thrower. Looking back, probably the bully was the biggest waste, because why would I add a bully to the stone thrower that's never going to get into melee? But you know what? Whatever. I just wanted to fill points, and I wasn't super worried about it. It was kind of a quick change.
Yeah. And then if you've listened to our Army List episode, you know that I came to the podcast with a completely illegal list, and you can go listen to that episode and find out what was wrong with it if you care to know. But I just want to kind of go through the full list again really quickly here, just so that you guys know what I ended up taking. So I got a second Thane, so Undak Mossbrow. He ended up being my general. He had the Rune of Stone, Master Rune of Dismay, which is like a horn, a runic horn that you can blow and make the enemy take some leadership tests and such, and a great weapon. I had Guto Stone Root still as my battle standard bearer, and he had the Rune of Battle on that. And nothing else. Then I had Yorith Grundaz, who was my Dragon Slayer. We fixed his rune setup, so he just had a rune axe with the Master Rune of Swiftness, which is always strikes first, and the Rune of Fire for magical flaming attacks. Then I had the Elders of the Eastgate Lodge, which were Longbeards. I bumped them up to 15 of those, and full command on that. Actually, not full command. I dropped the banner because the BSB was going to go in there. And then I had Crowfoot's Lads, which were Quarrelers, 10 of those with a musician, and Stoneroot's Thunder, which was 10 Thunderers, again with a musician. And that then, and then also the 4th Corps Auxiliary Picks, which were 15 Dwarf Warriors in heavy armor, full command with great weapons.
Yes.
So that made up my initial defensive force that was defending the caravan just off the road at the beginning of the battle. Then the rest of these units, there's 4 more, were part of the relief force that would come in later. If you want to know more about how the scenario actually worked or the mechanics of that, 2 episodes ago we went over that scenario, so you could check that episode out. But the first of those was Ungrak's Anvil, which was 10 warriors with shields, light armor, a banner, and musician. And then an identical unit called Undak's Own Guard Brigade, so another 10 warriors, shields, light armor, banner, musician. And then I put Yorith's Kroxigor Slayers, which actually, so Yorith was deployed in this relief force as well with his Kroxigor Slayers. And I had 15 of those, and just with Slayer Axes, no command. And then the Mossbrook Scout Patrol, which was 10 Rangers with great weapons, light armor, and full command. So that was the relief force that would show up throughout the battle, potentially starting on turn 2. Right. So just wanted to cover that since, again, my list was kind of completely wrong last time, and then quite a few changes.
The spirit was certainly followed.
Yeah, it's most of the same stuff, just reoriented a little bit and swapped some things around based on our conversation in the last episode. But yeah, so that's what we ended up with.
Okay, so the scenario, without diving into all of that, because you guys can listen to last week's episode for more of the specifics on that, but we basically had a situation where I, as the Greenskins player, had to be pretty much more aggressive. I have to go secure loot points, loot counters off of units that are starting on the board for the Dwarf player. Deployment went back and forth, but I was always going to get the +1. I think I rolled pretty well to get to pick the side first. I picked one with a hill because I wanted the Auror boys to shoot in 2 ranks without going 10 wide. I think I was actually correct in my estimation because I had 11 drops, which is a lot for 1,500 points. I was worried I would run out of space, and I felt like I did suffer that.
You did start to by the end.
We had some rough terrain, especially on my left flank, and I think a little bit on my far right as well. There were a couple forests or something in there that I was trying to go around without getting trudging through there too much. There were 2 other kind of rough terrain forest jungly things that I think got switched, which was part of the scenario as well. Kind of blocking portions of the dwarf side of deployment that John made it really good use of. It really prevented me from encircling his center, basically. It ended up being a funnel or a choke point that ended up not being good for me in the long run. But we went back and forth. I'll just kind of go over my deployment unless you... Oh, you know what? Before we get into deployment, I know I'm sidestepping here. Just overall thoughts initially. I think this battle went really well overall, but it was very, like, swingy but in ways that were, like, I didn't expect. Like, I came into this as a non-ever playing Greenskin, never played Orcs and Goblins ever. Read about them, of course, and have watched battle reports, but I thought things like animosity were going to ruin the game for me. And while I certainly suffered at times, I don't feel like it was a backbreaker, and I never had any Black Orc characters or units. But then other things that I was really worried about, like panic checks and things, I think I overcompensated for things like that instead of... And it was just interesting to see how that rolled out. And then I know we played with and against Dwarfs a bit more, so to me they're a bit more of a known quantity. But even then, they had some really good results, I think, throughout the game, where there were some combats that they lost by, at times, by 4 or 5 points, and they were still holding in several situations, and it was probably a pretty big deal that they did hold in some of those times. So it was a good back and forth battle, and it ended up being rather close. Yeah. Did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think the changes that we made to the scenario ended up working out pretty well overall. Yeah. And we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording tonight, but it feels like it's probably in a good enough place to play a few more times before making further changes, just to see how it works out. We also talked a little about how the specific army matchups would pretty significantly change the scenario as well. Obviously, the dwarfs don't mind being the defenders in something like this because they don't really want to be moving, but they would have a very hard time attacking in this scenario.
Yes.
So yeah, I think your mileage may vary if you try out this scenario. I don't know if I did. I don't know if I posted this one. I might have forgotten to do that. So we'll try to make sure that we post the link to this scenario in the show notes for this episode if you want to try it out. But if you do with different forces, yeah, we'll just be interested to hear how that works out for you. But otherwise, I think the scenario worked pretty well. I think thematically it felt like we wanted it to. The changes to reinforcements worked pretty well, where not everything came in at once, but because they were coming in piecemeal, there was a little bit more of a dynamic push and pull to the scenario, and the dwarfs could respond a little bit more dynamically to the battlefield situation. And then the reinforcement dwarfs actually were able to impact the battle for the most part. So I think that was helpful.
I think that was probably the most positive change.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel unfair either. It was certainly something I was concerned about, and rightfully so, I think. But it was nice that he couldn't just show up and charge me in my rear or whatever. I could at least have a movement phase to try and compensate and do something. And I think I took advantage of that in a couple of situations. So without further delay, back to my deployment. Going left to right here, and maybe you guys have already seen this in the video, I don't know. I think on my far extreme left flank, I've got some wolf riders. They're spider riders, but they're just wolf riders with spears or whatever. I think one unit had shields, one didn't. It didn't ever end up really coming into mattering. Then adjacent to them, or across some rough terrain, was some night goblin archers, 20 of them. I had 2 fanatics in each night goblin unit. I kind of just came up with that ahead of time because I was like, I'll just spread them out. I'd rather have everybody have something rather than put 2 units full of 3 and not know what's going to happen. I'd rather hedge my bets. I think that kind of ended up being an okay choice.
I think so.
Yeah. And then adjacent to them, I believe, were some trolls. And then adjacent to them was a hill with some orc armor boys.
I think the squig herd was before
you're
that.
right. Thank you. Squig herd. I forget about the squig herd, which I shouldn't forget about. Squig herd's just kind of there. And then there was a hill with armor boys on top, arranged 5 wide, 2 deep.
And the orc boys were kind of just in front of the hill.
Yes. And they were the big, that's where Git Face was plastered in. It was 16 biggins with double hand weapons. That was my killie unit, so to speak. And then to their right, I had 2 more units of 20 night goblins with spears. And inside of each of those was one of my 2 level 2s. We had Vile Nibla, and then I forget the other guy's name. Gornak, thank you. And then to the right of them, even further, I had, I believe, the Orc Boar Chariot around another kind of foresty bit or some kind of piece of terrain. Then there was like the rock lobber kind of offset to look down the side of the board.
Right, which I think you did a lot for the way the jungles were set up in the dwarf deployment zone.
Yeah, they're very well
better
hidden.
Angle, yeah.
Yeah, and then finally the other wolf riders on the far extreme right.
Which again, if you're seeing in the video, they're spider rider models, but we just ran them as wolf riders.
Yes, and the thought process behind this sort of deployment was, and we're going back and forth as we were doing this too, so that was part of it, but I wanted to mix up where the goblins were in relation to other orc units / each other, like the trolls. I wanted to keep the trolls close to Git Face. I think if I had done things differently, I would have actually almost oriented all the goblins to my left flank, because those forests in the center by the dwarf deployment ended up, I think, being kind of the game changers for me. They really held up my left flank.
Yeah.
I was able, and we'll get into this in later turns, to get some wolf riders back there eventually that really caused some good havoc. But other than them, I really wasn't able to overcome the jungles, and they slowed me down significantly, and I never wanted to give the dwarf the charge, which maybe was a mistake. I wonder that, but And then on the right, I think I did a little bit better, but I feel like I could have navigated more of my really scary threats over there, and then try to kind of envelop more while the goblins played standoff. But that's what I ended up deploying. Do you want to go over the dwarf deployment?
Yeah, so the dwarfs, as part of the scenario, deployed their ore cart first, and John kind of put it behind the 2 jungles that scattered pretty close to each other.
Yeah.
Then he hid his pickaxe unit, which again was just regular dwarfs with great weapons, which had Undak Mossbrow, the Thane General, inside that unit, and they were facing towards the dwarf right flank, so towards where, like, the side of the table with the goblin archers and the trolls, etc. And then the Longbeards with the battle standard bearers, so Guto, Stonebrook, and the elders of the Eastgate Lodge were kind of right next to them, but facing the other direction towards the dwarf left flank, right behind the woods as well. And then to the left of them were the Quarrelers and then the Thunderers.
Yep.
So it was a very small dwarf deployment because they start the scenario undermanned and a smaller force. But I think that deployment with both of the ranged units on the left flank did create a soft flank over there that I think you successfully were able to exploit. Like you were saying, the right flank went a little bit better for you. And I think some of those softer units, smaller unit sizes over there helped do that.
Right. I think I even could have done better, though. Like, imagine, I feel like if I had the trolls over there.
Sure,
I was so scared of the shooting, but I think about it now. It's like, well, they would still get a 4-up regen save even against that. And if they die, maybe I still have a... well, I'll go get into it later. But
Fair enough. So it was a pretty basic dwarf deployment there.
Ifs and buts and all that. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
I don't think there's much else to say about that. The rest of the dwarfs, as we mentioned, were in reserve, waiting to come in, potentially starting turn 2.
Yes, and then we rolled off to get first turn. I just got a native +1 for being the attacker. It ended up mattering this time. I think we both rolled a 4, so I took first turn because I wanted to go up. I did animosity. I think I had 2 failures. Cam, you're going to probably have to remind me. I believe it was the orc R boys on the hill. They failed animosity, but got a 6, so they just moved up 4, almost off the hill.
Yep, but still on.
Still on, kind of. It was a little bit annoying.
Yeah, I think we decided one guy was technically off the hill.
So we were like, okay, so that's fine, I guess. And then I believe
one of the goblin spear
on
units.
the spear. Yes, that's right. Spear unit on the left, kind of the more left one. I believe ended up failing animosity.
Yeah. And they just got a squabble, so they stood still.
And everybody else just kind of moved forward.
Yep, trolls passed their stupidity.
Yep.
Barely on an 8.
Yeah, that happened. You're right, it was on an 8. Gip face being there was nice. And I did move up, did some wizardy things. Vile Nibbla cast Edbutt.
The dwarfs dispelled that. I think John decided to just throw all of his dice at it.
Correct.
It's worth noting this was John's first time ever playing Warhammer Fantasy, so he was learning the rules as we went. I had given him a bit of a primer earlier in the day on how it all went. But yeah, he definitely didn't know what the other spells available were and what was coming down the pipe after this. Which I kind of thought of
after I did that, and I was like, you know what, next time, let me tell you everything that I have, because I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah, which I think was kind, and again, we would advocate for, if you're playing with new players, just being open about what could be coming next so that people don't feel those gotcha moments
for sure.
At that point.
Fortunately, he's an AOS player, right? So he's probably knows some of this stuff, at least, the concepts.
Yeah, he definitely took it like a champ and understood how that was all going. But anyways, following that, then Gornak cast Brainbursta and killed 4 Thunderers.
That was nice.
Which was then a panic check, which thankfully they passed.
No problem.
Yeah.
And then I don't think shooting. Maybe I killed somebody with an arrow. I think actually
Our boys killed a quarreler.
Yep.
And the lava mist scattered forward from the unit. You had a really good guess. I think you guessed well throughout the whole game.
I do pretty good on the guessing generally.
But the scatter got you on this one.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't expect to hit. It's actually funny. There was a post in the Facebook group about rocks or stone throwers today, and I remember I wrote up a response. They were like, "What do you guys think of stone throwers?" And I'm like, if I get to shoot 4 times-ish over a game, I feel like out of those 4 shots, I'll probably get 1 good hit. And 1 good hit is oftentimes that pulls a whole rank off, if not more.
And can pay for it depending on
exactly.
The unit.
So, big fan of stone throwers. Then that was really all that happened. There was no combat, of course.
Yeah, just a big push
screamed
forward.
up the wolf riders on both flanks pretty aggressively. Everything else was, I guess, slightly more tame, but I feel like I marched for the most part.
Yeah. So dwarf turn 1, the pickaxes with Undak Mossbrow, the general, just shifted forward like an inch or 2, slightly repositioning into what was then a gap between 2 woods, a pretty narrow gap, probably just a little bit bigger than the dwarf unit. Yeah. And so moved forward towards that a little bit. Then that was all the dwarf movement. The Thunderers opened up at the spiders on their left flank and managed to kill 2. Mm-hmm. They failed their panic. And then fled, and were literally like a half an inch from leaving the board.
That's true. They were very close.
Yeah, that was a wild, one of the first wild turns, where if those Spider Riders had left, the right flank would have gone a bit different, just because of how some of the things shaped up later in the game. The Quarrelers managed to kill 2 of the Goblin Spearmen straight across from them as they were advancing, and then that was more or less it.
Yep. Turn 2, I think I'm trying to think of animosity, what happened here.
I've got you.
Thank you.
The R boys failed again.
And
this time they squabbled, so they just didn't do anything. The Squig Herd failed animosity and squabbled, so didn't do anything. The Spider Riders did rally, so they
That's
turned
right.
back around right at the board edge and were there the rest of the turn. And the Trolls passed Stupidity again on an 8. So they're just barely hanging on there.
Yeah. So after movement, I remember this is the magic phase. Can't remember if it's I think it's Vile Nibla who blows up here, but spoiler alert, first spell I go for with him, I think it may have been Edbud again. I miscast, I double won it on 3 dice. And on the miscast, I roll 1d6 because orcs are unique. I get a 1. So he just dies instantly.
And he blew up.
And he killed 3 other goblins.
Yeah.
He was in the corner of the unit. But he killed everyone next to him. So that was bad.
But it wasn't 25%, so it didn't cause a panic check.
That's true. It was just unfortunate because I knew, okay, now the magic phases where I thought, okay, I can probably get something through every turn. Now
it was against you. Now it's 4 to 3.
Now I'm really,
or 4 to 5.
4 to 4.
4 to 4.
Because I had one level 2.
Level 2, yeah.
But
yeah, which is not good odds. If you've played fantasy, you know that you want more casting dice than dispel dice to be able to get spells through.
If I had a bound item or something, I'd say that would have pushed it into my favor for sure, but I didn't have anything like that.
Yeah.
So
that was yet another twist and turn that happened on turn 2. So there's the first moment in turn 1 where it's like, oh, the spiders almost fled, and then of course they passed their leadership 6 or whatever
it's
rally test, and that's the worst. But then it's countered by the fact that Vile Nibla blows himself up and 3 goblins with him. So that's Warhammer Fantasy for you. I would encourage you, if you're playing this, it's easy to encounter the first one of those things that happens to you and then feel like everything's falling apart, but you just got to count to 10 and it's going to happen to the other player. And it usually ends up balancing out by the end.
Especially with Orcs and Goblins too. So, shooting wise,
Gornak did cast Gaze of Mork in that phase, and he killed a Quarreler with it.
I'll take it.
So we're slowly picking off some dwarfs here.
Yep. I can't even believe I got that off. I must have rolled really hot.
You did that first, I think.
Oh, did I? Okay. That makes more sense then.
Yeah.
Maybe he let it through. He was probably worried about the other spell.
I can't remember.
Neither can I. But I don't think I did much with shooting. Maybe was this a hit with the stone thrower this time?
Hit the Quarrelers and killed 3 of them.
Okay. Started ranging that in. Line of sight ended up being a little bit of an issue here. We play stone throwers where I think it's as the rules are written, where you have to have line of sight to something in order to even attempt to shoot. You can't indirect fire, as it were.
Yeah, but that's clarified in the annual 2002, I believe.
Okay. And then I could see kind of a needle or a bit full dwarves, and I could say, okay, I want to target that direction, and I would then make my guess or whatnot. So that stone thrower was doing pretty good. Thinning out the Thunderers. I think they were deployed wide as well. So each one I was killing, I think, was removing a shot. But don't quote me on that.
It was. He deployed both units 10 wide.
Was he 10 wide? I thought the Thunderers were 5 wide for some reason, but maybe I'm mistaken.
I think they eventually reformed to that when they were about to get charged.
Maybe you're right. Okay. And then Archers, I don't believe did anything. They squabbled.
Fired at the auxiliary picks. Well, the Goblin Archers fired at the...
And did nothing.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
No, they killed 1.
Did they really?
Yep.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, so honestly, your shooting was doing surprisingly well.
Good.
Your magic's doing well. Any single kill here is really good against the dwarfs.
Right.
So if you're picking off a few of these toughness 4 guys, that's a huge deal when you finally make contact.
Because they were units of 16, right? And I know they had characters, or no, they were units of 15.
15.
So just getting the 1 kill actually takes a rank bonus.
Yeah.
So you think of it that way, it's huge, for sure. So, and for me, anytime a strength 3 shot kills a tough 4 anything, I'm pretty happy.
It looks like the Dwarf Thunderers did initially deploy 5 wide.
Oh, okay.
I think he did that to then move up or reposition and then went wide with them.
I see.
Something like that.
And then I don't believe there was any combat yet. Still not yet for a while. Nope. I might have really started moving up on my left flank with those Wolf Riders at this point.
I think you're starting to get around the woods there.
Yeah, and this was something I was hoping I would do at least with one of them. This was obviously the easier side to do it because while the woods provide him a ton of shielding and protection, it also provides the Wolf Riders a lot of shielding and protection as well. So they were pretty much able to run up unscathed, no issues. There's no shooting over there either. So,
but at this point, they're up far enough that John's starting to feel the pressure of, something's now coming around into my rear and or flank. And so that pressure was already being put on turn 2.
Yep. And that was an interesting thing. I liked how that was going. But I think this is where, at least on that flank, I was already feeling by turn 2, like, I don't know how I can deal with the warrior unit in that spot, because the trolls, I wasn't confident I could actually get the charge because they were too wide to fit the gap effectively without hitting rough terrain and then failing and then giving him the charge. And I think those were the picks, so they were the great weapon guys.
Yeah,
I
so
will
worst
admit,
thing to have charge you.
I made a mistake a couple of times throughout this game, and I think misled John at one point where I thought a unit had great weapons when it didn't or something. I got a little tripped up with which dwarf unit was what.
Yeah, once some of the relief force units came in, you thought some of them were great weapons.
Yeah, I messed that up at one point, to my detriment, I think.
Right, because I think he ended up rolling great weapons.
He rolled great weapons against me, and then I think even though we gave him the shield armor save back, he still failed those anyway, or whatever.
So it probably came out in the wash.
Well, I think it was literally the way the rolls happened. It was literally just negative for the orcs, but it's fine. I was worried about the left flank. This is the key point I'm trying to make. I was having trouble navigating that gap, and I knew starting basically next turn he could just have guys appear in either of those woods, those jungles, right? So I'm like, how do I deal with this? Who do I have over there? I've got trolls. Trolls are cool, but I don't think 3 trolls to the front of a dwarf unit are going to break it. We're only hitting on 4s. We're wounding on 3s.
It'd have to be a coordinated charge with the spider riders to break ranks in the back.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and they're not quite there yet. So I was pretty worried about that. But right side, I was feeling better about. I knew I was going to lose goblins, but every time one died, I was just like, whatever, it's 2 points, 3 points, right? I expect casualties, so unfazed by that. And Get Face was close to them for leadership 8 on panic checks. Yeah, that was the plan at least. So that was pretty much my turn too. I think it went pretty smooth. The big thing was Val Nibla blowing up.
Yeah, definitely a big blow. Dwarf turn 2 started with a roll to see if the relief forces arrived, and there were 4 possible units. The way the scenario works is each unit gets to roll separately to find out if they show up, and a 4+ on turn 2, and John rolled all 1s. So no relief forces arrived.
4 times in a row, I think.
Yeah, I think he rolled for them one at a time.
He picked a different die, I think, for the last 2, because he was like, this is ridiculous. And then one again. He's like, one again. Yeah, that was very fortunate.
Yeah, because that's, the Spider Riders on the dwarf right flank were getting close enough that having somebody pop out there to intercept them would have been really helpful at that moment to stop them getting into the back line. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, just being able to come out of the jungles would have helped. But anyways, they didn't show up. The auxiliary picks then during the movement phase turned to face the Spider Riders that were now coming around their right flank. And I think, again, as we've talked about in previous episodes, that's a common thing that newer players will do is they'll do that spinning thing where they feel that threat. Now, granted, 5 wolf riders are more of a threat than 10 skink skirmishers.
Yes.
Because they will break your rank bonus, and that's not going to be good, especially if you're about to get charged in the front by trolls or something.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think he was in a really tight spot there because, again, he's at a limited number of units to defend with. He doesn't really have anything else to turn and face on that flank, and so I don't know what the right choice was there, but anyways, that's what happened.
I actually think he did the right choice because I don't think I was going to be able to make a charge with
that
the trolls.
Turn at least, yeah.
So him facing me was
better to face the thing that's closest to charging. Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense. And if the trolls weren't charging, then there's potentially more time for reinforcements still on that part.
Yeah.
The elders of the Eastgate Lodge moved forward a little bit to form a battle line next to the quarrelers, so kind of sneaking up and around the jungle a little bit towards the left. The Thunderers then opened up at a unit of goblins and killed 4 of them, and the quarrelers fired at the other unit, Gornak, whatever his name was, also killed 4. So they're doing some damage back, but as you pointed out, goblins are worth almost nothing, and so at this point it was probably close to the same number of dwarfs and goblin casualties. Maybe a few more goblins at this point But
after that, probably more goblins, yeah.
But that obviously, anything close to 1-to-1 is really bad for the dwarfs in that situation.
For sure.
And then, that's it. So again, with a small force, the dwarf turns were going pretty quick at this point, and that wrapped up dwarf turn 2. Really just waiting for all the charges to hit home. There's not much else to do but stand and wait and hope that the relief force arrives. So on to orc turn 3.
Yeah, animosity here. Trying to remember what happened. You got this one?
Yep, the air boys failed again. So they really wanted to go fight.
First turns, really.
Yeah, and they rolled a 6 again, so they again charged forward. So they apparently...
They're now off the hill.
Drew the short straw to have to be the guys with bows before the battle. And they were like, we'll show them. We'll charge in anyways and go fight people. So this time they did end up off the hill. So you had that advantageous position and then barely got to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And the trolls did fail stupidity here, which I think was another critical thing. Yeah, so they only stumbled forward 3 inches towards the jungle, which bought the dwarfs more time to figure out what was going on with the auxiliary pick unit.
I completely forgot that this happened when I was thinking about what I could have done differently. And that, now that I think about it, that was actually huge.
It was.
Because I could have moved up. I mean, maybe probably not 12 because the jungles were too close, but I could have gotten to guarantee within charge range next turn.
Yes, which now was like not necessarily.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yep. So that was pretty rough.
That's okay.
But nobody else failed animosity at that point.
Yep.
Vile Nibla's goblins kept fleeing. When did they fail a panic
I
test?
believe they must have failed when they were shot at last turn. I believe that's when that happened.
That must be what it was.
So because of
when the Thunderers killed 4,
yep.
And since he'd already lost 3 or 4 from Vile Nibla.
Exactly. Vile Nibble blowing up, plus I think they got shot that previous turn, and then another 4. They finally did the 25, and then it was I don't remember if they were in Get Face's 12-inch bubble.
They might not have been by that point. I'm not sure.
I'm not certain myself. I think I tried to play that way. I might have just rolled a 9 or a 10, to be frank with you. But they went off, and then I was like, okay, they're probably not coming back.
But...
Yeah. And everybody else was moving up pretty much fine. I think I got to shoot with the error boys this turn because they're not.
Because the 6 means that they take a normal turn.
They just move normally now, so it's kind of almost only a good thing, kind of. But other than they're off the hill now, and I don't know if they really shot anything. They might have shot at the corralers, but I don't think they did anything.
Nothing in the notes that they did.
Fair enough. Is this the turn?
Here, no, I have it. Error boys fired at coralers and missed with everything.
Yeah, okay, that sounds about right. And then I don't believe the goblins shot anything, or if they did, they must have missed everything.
No, they didn't have a target at that point.
Okay, and I don't know if this was the turn I forgot the stone thrower. Is that noted down?
No, you did. So it targeted the Longbeards, and this was like the big turn.
This was the big one.
For the Lava.
So I got a good guess on this one. Again, because I like stone throwers especially. They're kind of like counter camping, for lack of a better word. And I say camping. I shouldn't use that because that's got a negative connotation. But they counter defensive play.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word, because you're able to range in, right? Because they're not moving about a lot. Like I think after 2 turns, the Longbeards from their original position have maybe moved 3 inches.
Yep.
I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But they haven't moved a lot.
No more than 6, certainly.
Right. And so I'm kind of really getting a eyeball range of how far away that general vicinity of guys are. Mm-hmm. And I think at this point, after Val Nibla's former unit fleeing too, now I've got a lot more vision.
Yeah.
And so I can see them, and they're obviously a big, expensive unit. I got a good guess, and I got rewarded with a direct hit. And I think I did pretty darn good on the rolls.
You got 6 auto hits and 7 partials.
Yeah.
So that was a lot to begin with. And then you rolled
I think I killed
2
6
of the partials. So didn't do great on the transition, but that ended up with 9 hits. And with no armor saves, that's pretty rough. And you ended up with 5 kills.
5 kills. Yeah. Okay, I thought it was 6. But still, that's a rank. That's a ton. Those guys are like 14
points apiece. So that's huge point sink right there.
Very pleased with that. No panic because they're
immune to it for old grumblers.
Yep. So
which we had a lot of fun. There was a number of times where they would have taken panic, and that actually came in handy, and they didn't. So we had lots of fun joking about what they were grumbling about. Of the stones used to be bigger when they would have killed 12 of us back in my day.
It was funny, extra funny, because it was always bad things happening to them.
Yeah.
And they were just like, oh yeah, no, this is fine. This is not a problem. We used to deal with stuff like 3 times as bad.
Yep.
But
you did skip past your movement phase and magic phase, though.
Did I?
To shooting.
Did I? Oh, you're right. I don't think I charged anything this turn.
You did. So this is where you made the questionable choice to charge the chariot at the handgunners.
That was turn 3?
Yep.
Okay.
And
I was out?
You were just out. And
okay.
So it was a failed charge.
Yep.
And luckily, stand and shoot
I was
did
pretty
no
close.
Wounds. It was close, yeah.
I think it was 15 and a half or so. So it was about an inch and a half out. I just figured I'd go for it.
Yeah, and they were whittled down quite a bit.
Right.
But obviously the support of the Spider Riders would have been helpful, who had then been delayed by their fleeing.
And they would have made it in. But
anyways, the big thing was that the Thunderers failed to do any wounds with stand and shoot, which that was a great opportunity for him to break up some of the chariot with that. But again, the toughness 5 is tough to get through, even with dwarf handguns.
Right. Despite the stone thrower hit too, although I guess if I moved before that, I wasn't aware that I was going to get that good stone thrower hit. I was very cautious about the Longbeards with my Gip Face unit. Not sure if that was the right choice or not. I'm not confident in my threat assessment levels for my orcs yet.
Yeah, that's fair.
And knowing do I just run at them? Oh, I'm 100% going to win. I think both units ended up being pretty evenly matched, actually. But
when they got into it,
yeah. But it was hard to say for me at that moment. So I was playing maybe a little more cagey than I probably should have. I was being pretty. I want to abuse my distance, right? I don't want to give him an opportunity to get the charge, and it's a disaster.
Yeah, because again, when you have the opportunity to hit with great weapons on the charge, that can be devastating.
Yeah. So, and then on the left, I believe because he spun, as you noted last time, the picks towards the Wolf Riders, I kind of did this whole thing where I think I was just now out. We checked for March block, and I was just out.
Yeah, so that's a question for you listeners. This is a weird thing that comes up is when you're going to move. I guess charging is already passed, but either way, checking for March blocking always feels weird because it creates a moment of pre-measuring that gives you actually quite a bit of information about whether the enemy unit would be able to charge you next turn and things like that.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
Yeah, so I don't know, how do you guys do it? We'd love to hear in the comments when it comes to the measuring for whether you're being charge blocked. Does that ever cause any issues for you? We've never really had any actual issues crop up, but it's something we just think about when it happens. So anyways, we measured, they weren't March blocked.
Yeah, so I ended up doing fast cav nonsense, walked kind of behind the objective, the cart.
Or cart, yep.
I never ended up, this is just an aside, I never ended up really attacking the cart. I never felt like I had a good opportunity where it would be safe that I could do that for multiple turns and not just... And unless I'm misremembering how the scenario works, if they died or got ran down, I would have lost all those things.
Yeah.
So because of that, it felt very difficult, even with a really fast unit, because he had just this. And part of it was because of how he was playing, right?
Yeah.
Which it ended up really working out. But he was just really following me around and threatening me. So they were kind of there to where they could do that. Or next turn they could go even further behind. I was just leaving myself open with options, and because even if once they were March blocked, which they probably were at this point, I still have a 9-inch move,
right?
Which is so fast, triple
3 times the dwarf move.
So I just am so fast with them, and I think those are becoming even more of my favorite unit. I want to take units of 10. Then you have a little more protection against panic and stuff.
Yeah.
Really like them. But that's what I did there. So they're literally in the backfield. They're behind the dwarf army. The trolls failed stupidity. I think the goblins.
I have here everything else was a general advance. You kind of just pushed everything forward. But the big thing is the archer unit got close enough. Oh no, the Gornax unit of spear goblins got close enough to launch fanatics towards the Longbeards.
Yeah, so we had to figure this out because we've never done it. So we found out that as soon as I become within 8 inches rather, we launched them out, but then they can't move anymore.
Right, it halts the advance of that unit.
Which was interesting. I didn't realize.
So if we messed that up, also let us know in the comments, but that's how we read the rules.
Right, so moved up, shot them out. kind of I misunderstood how that worked a little bit, but they were both kind and let me kind of adjust the angles. I got very good rolls.
Yeah, the weird thing that happened was you said you were sending them along the exact same line, but then rolled essentially what would land in the middle of the unit.
Yeah.
And so that then when they pop out the other side, they would have landed on top of each other.
Yeah.
And thus killed each other.
Sure.
But by just angling it slightly different, they wouldn't have done that. So that's what we retconned. Yeah.
So it was, I was under a foolish impression that, I rolled an 8, they'll pop out an inch behind or right behind, and then the other guy got a 9. He'll pop out an inch beyond that guy or whatever, or whichever order it came in. But no, whatever. They did not
only
very
killed
great.
One Longbeard, which was another one of those moments where, the rock lava happens and kills 5, and it's just like, oh, that hurts so bad. And then 2 fanatics blast through and only kill 1. It's like, oh, well, that really balanced that out.
So that could have been a lot better for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I won't even say, I was disappointed because I was hoping they were going to kill more for sure.
Yeah.
But I knew they had more opportunities to do stuff, and boy, did they. So wasn't that perturbed. But yeah, I think that was all that really happened that turn. I don't think I really got off any magic.
No, Gornak failed to cast Hand of Gork and Gaze of Mork, so he didn't even roll high enough to cast him in the first place.
So that happened quite a few times.
Yeah. Apparently the reverberations of the explosion of Vile Nibla had messed up the Winds of Magic for
I
that
should
turn.
note that I forgot about the mushrooms.
Yes, that was another thing until late in the game.
Yeah, then I was like, oh yeah, I gotta have some of these, and I rolled a D3 to see how many I had, and it was 1. So I'm like, okay. But
Sad.
That's fine. That's for me for forgetting. So I thought it was interesting because you made that call out during the Orcs and Goblins army book review of like how there's so much stuff to remember.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking at the time, like, I think we could do it. No, it's a lot. It's a ton. And I'm sure I probably forgot at some point there were guys in combat, and I probably didn't give myself the extra power dice. I don't know, but maybe that didn't come
and
up.
And we didn't follow our own advice and make a little cheat sheet of all the things we should remember.
So there's a lot going on. So learn from my folly, and maybe do that for yourselves, or just play more than one game, and I'm sure it kind of
you'll pick it up
starts
eventually.
to figure it out. But that was my turn 3, I believe.
Yeah. So top of dwarf turn 3, which is bottom of turn 3 total. The roll for relief forces brought in the Slayers and 1 unit of Warriors. So
yeah, he failed 2, got 2.
Yeah. So the Rangers and 1 unit of Warriors were still walking around looking for where the battlefield was, but the Yorith's Croc Slayers and the Warriors arrived. 1 unit of them. The Slayers deployed in the woods right in front of the Trolls, so this was sort of a key moment as well. Part of the scenario was that the Dwarf relief forces could come on from anywhere on the Dwarf half of the table, including the short edges, or deploy fully within a piece of jungle terrain. The way that the terrain we randomly generated terrain from the Lustria table and then did, I think, D6 plus 2 inch scatter or something like that.
Sounds about right.
For 1 piece for each 6th of the table, like each 2x2 section. And just the way that things came up, there were these 2 jungles in a really critically prime spot for the dwarf line. And so the opportunity to put the Slayers there was really big. If you remember from the scenario episode, we also talked about there was the opportunity for the dwarf player to pick an enemy unit that would have some of these loot points that we changed the name thematically to glory points. And if the dwarf army was able to kill them, they could take them in the same way that the attackers were taking the defenders' loot points. And so just for thematic reasons, we just automatically made that be the Trolls, since there was the Troll Slayers and Yorith, the Troll or the Dragon Slayer character. But this was obviously going to be perfect. This was one of the reasons I moved the Slayers into the relief force, was for the possibility that this might be able to happen, and give a little bit more maneuverability. As we talked about in the army list building episode, it's really easy for armies to just avoid any dwarf unit they want to avoid if there's something really critically lined up like this. So this really helped get around that, which was helpful in terms of the scenario. So anyways, the Slayers deployed in the woods right in front of the Trolls. But what that did was immediately trigger fanatics from the Archers. So this was one of those times where one of these special rules then triggers in the middle of something else happening. So we pause everything.
There was this game. This game was weird.
Yeah, which as to be expected with a custom scenario and a new army, and that new army being Orcs and Goblins.
Yes.
Both of them rolled.
They did pretty good.
Yeah, both of the fanatics rolled high enough to go all the way through the unit and killed 3 of the Slayers. So it's definitely something, but not totally devastating for the dwarfs.
Right.
At this point, we didn't realize that if a slayer enters the woods, it dies. So the next turn,
I think we ended up
looked it
saying,
up and then
yeah.
found out that had happened. I think we'd already rolled for them to go back through the slayers and kill some more. I think what we ended up doing was leaving all the dwarfs dead, but then
we just picked them up.
Killed both of the fanatics. Something long. I'm sure I have notes on it on the next turn.
I believe that's correct, what you just said.
Yeah. So anyways, we did the fanatics, wrapped that up, then moved on to deploying the warriors coming in from the relief force. They deployed in the other woods, so right in front of the Longbeards on the flank of the Orc Boys unit with Gitface in it.
Yeah, and these had shields, but for the next 2 turns of the game, I just thought they had great weapons for some reason.
Yes.
So, I don't know.
And so, yeah, that was really helpful. That then suddenly put a unit threatening the flank of the Orc Boys and making that whole situation of charging into the Longbeards a little more tenuous.
For sure.
Now, the relief force arriving followed all normal rules of reserves arriving or coming back on the table after moving off of it from a pursuit or something. So none of these dwarf units were allowed to charge this turn. So that's worth pointing out as well. But they are now creating a lot of threat, certainly. The next thing that happened was moving into regular movement phase. We had the Longbeards advance towards the Orc Boys. I think John decided he was probably a little bit out of charge range because of a wheel around the woods that would have had to happen.
That, and I talked to him a little bit about it, and I don't know if this influenced him, but he had 2 fanatics very close to the rear, and I said, there's a reasonable chance that with some of these angles, they could just get walked through again or clipped pretty easily. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
And I think you were probably close enough to charge anyways. So I think him moving forward wasn't that big of a deal.
It was close, but yeah, I had tried to set it up to where I was doing that, essentially.
You'd be in and he'd be out, yeah. The auxiliary picks with Undak Mossbrow, the general, turned to face the spider riders in the rear. So they had been facing front. Then the spiders came on their flank. They turned to the flank. Then the spiders went behind the cart. They turned to their rear. So he's doing the spin thing. The dwarfs are just spinning around in a circle.
Yep.
The
but he's got the slayers protecting his rear now.
Yes, so that definitely is really helpful. It's a little easier. There's not another fast unit coming around to threaten the flank. So the spinning at least isn't as dangerous to the picks.
Yeah.
But it is meaning they're just spinning in place, doing nothing. Except maybe keeping you running away from the ore cart, perhaps?
The way I look at it, I think he played correctly, actually, because, if he doesn't, if let's say he faces towards the slayers and ignores me, I think I just charge the ore cart and just collect points.
Right, which, again, just a quick reminder of the scenario, you have to win combats against units to take loot points from them, but against the cart, if you're in base contact and not otherwise in combat, you just get free loot points every turn without having to roll anything. The Thunderers then in the shooting phase fired at the chariot and missed with everything, so didn't even get any hits and not wounds. So that was pretty rough. They were apparently freaked out by the thundering chariot coming down at them, having failed all of their stand and shoot and then failed again at their regular shooting. The Quarrelers shot at Orcs Goblins and killed another 4, but that wasn't quite enough for panic. They missed it by 1.
Yeah.
And I think that had happened the previous turn. They'd missed it by 1, needing 1 more to cause the panic. So they were just fine. They didn't mind. And that was it. So again, a short dwarf turn, but that moves us into orc turn 4.
Yeah. This is where it gets a little fuzzy for me, I admit, between all the different ones.
Well, I can cover some of
Animosity helped me on animosity here.
Yeah, so the Air Boys failed once again.
Did they fail 4 turns in a row?
4 turns in a row.
I don't think in the moment I quite realized that.
Well, it's because 2 of the times they got a 6,
got to do anything,
so they
anyway.
Still acted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
but this time they rolled a squabble, so they didn't act.
Yeah.
But that was the only people that failed animosity. Vile Nibla's goblins didn't rally and kept fleeing, but only 5 inches, so they were slowly working their way off the battlefield.
Yeah.
And the trolls passed stupidity. So that was nice. But do you want me to go through what the fanatics did as well? Do you remember that?
Why don't you? I'm pretty sure I remember, but why don't you go over it, because you have notes. So
yeah. So one fanatic went towards the spiders in the rear and didn't hit anything. This would have been one of the ones behind the Longbeards, I think, started heading towards. No, this one might have been one of the ones that went through the Slayers.
This is one of the ones that we took off later, I think.
So it had gone through the Slayers, through the woods, and then kept going straight towards the Spider Riders in the back. Another one turned around and went back through the Slayers, killing 5 this time, which was wild. And then 2 went forward through the Longbeards. So this was pretty rough because there were 2 that had popped out the back and could have kind of gone into nothing, but turned right back around and both went back through the Longbeards, killing 4. So much more effective on their way back through. They only killed 1 initially, but then 4 more coming back through. So if you are keeping track, the Longbeards are now down to getting close to half of their starting number, which is pretty rough. Once again, triggering plenty of jokes about their old grumblers and not panicking and the size and intensity of Goblin fanatics compared to back in the old days. But that was when, later in the turn even actually, we then realized that the fanatics going into the woods would have died.
Right.
And so we weren't sure, would they even have hit the Slayers in the first place, because technically the Slayers were fully in the woods. So we decided that we would, the first burst would have worked. They would have, like, because they were kind of on the edge of the woods. So
they were very near the rim.
Yeah.
Or just about at it.
So we said that would count, and then we ended up not taking or putting back on the 5 Slayers that died this turn either, and just called it a wash,
I guess.
But then pulled off both of the fanatics since they had both then moved through the woods at that point.
Yeah.
So that's what we ended up doing. So then charges.
I hemmed and hawed, I think, quite a bit at this. And this is where I struggle as a person, because if I put on my try-hard cap, I think I want to do things that are not fun. Specifically, I think the trolls, what's the word? They have the Slayers in front of them.
Yeah.
It is the worst possible target for them to fight.
Yes. It is exactly what the Slayers want to fight. Yes. It's exactly what the magic
weapon...
it's very
thematic that they happen. I could probably back up and be fine. I have past stupidity. I could back up. He's in rough terrain.
Yeah, so he's only coming out 1.5 inch.
He's not going to get me.
Or I guess 3 inches the way we play, but...
Right, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He's not going to get me. He can't. And, but I charged him anyway, because... I don't know. I don't know what to say, Orcs and Goblins players. Hopefully I didn't let you down. But I just thought it would be cool. And I hate doing the thing where it's like this unit's whole purpose is for this fight to happen, and then be like, well, I'll just not.
Right. Because it kind of stops the game from happening. And I think that's a common problem with war games, is because they inherently have a competitive element to them. It's really easy as a player to use our full knowledge of the battlefield, especially in a game like this that doesn't have a lot of what game designers call friction, where you have total control over your troops most of the time, obviously with Orcs and Goblins, not always. But if you're imagining, like, okay, in the heat of battle, 3 trolls are lumbering forward and some bright colored dwarf, like hairy dwarves pop out of the woods, the trolls are going to go, ooh, yum, and charge right towards them.
Sure. So
I appreciate you making that narrative thematic decision. I would love to hear from the listeners. What do you guys think about those types of conundrums when you run into a situation where it feels like you're caught between what seems like an obvious optimal choice, but feels very anti whatever would thematically or narratively be happening?
And
how do you deal with it?
Yeah, and for me, it's especially hard, the ones that are just, I back up.
Yeah.
If it's me with the Goblin Riders making somebody spin, I don't know, for me, that doesn't bother me as much internally, because I'm like, it's a conscious choice they're making or whatever, and there, I think, is some theoretical counterplay.
Absolutely, yeah.
But the whole, like, I'm just going to completely avoid, I'm disengaging.
Right, now the trolls aren't really playing the game anymore. They're just going to sit out.
They're playing the game of the win conditions, if that makes sense, but it's not the game of the battle, as you indicated narratively. So I ended up charging them, and then I also hemmed and hawed over the charge on the Longbeards, because I have Gitface's unit right there, and I don't think Gitface's unit has taken a wound yet. He had focused pretty exclusively on the Goblin units, which I was very pleased with. But I have 2 fanatics immediately in front of them.
Because they went back through the Longbeards, they're now sort of protecting them.
And then I kind of had the same sort of thought back, and I'm like, am I just avoiding? Because at this point, as you've kind of highlighted well, I think, Cam, like, he's already getting shredded by the Stone Thrower, the Fanatics, and I'm not even, like, doing anything. It feels like it's completely random. And I'm like, well, so I charge. I think, again, if I'm playing to, like, optimal, like if I was at a tournament or something and we're playing this, not that we probably ever would, but if that ever happened, I think I would have stayed and backed up with the trolls and then maybe done some other stuff, but it just feels wrong. So I charged.
Yeah, this also brought up another question that we had, which was there was technically a way you could have charged probably and gone sort of around, or maybe only through one fanatic, but then clipped the Longbeard unit. And so we went back and forth about whether you could do that or whether you shouldn't do that. Do you always have to maximize when you're doing this sort of a thing? But we've brought it up before, but in the appendices of the main rule book, there's a whole section on the spirit of the charging rules are that you should avoid clipping and you should try to always maximize and get as many people into combat as possible. And that would have meant going through both fanatics.
So I just did
That's what we did. So once again, kudos to you for playing thematically, for doing the just going all in and playing like an orc general.
How many died for that? 9? I think
six. Six orc boys. I say that's like half the unit, but not quite.
Okay. I can't. I remember doing it, and then after all of them died, I was like, "Oh God, that was a mistake." But whatever. I thought, okay, maybe we just win the combat. Hopefully, he fails. He's got a BSB in there though, so he's gonna get a reroll. I think I got the double charge on with the chariot and the
this
goblins.
turn, because the goblin spider riders had stalled out for a turn at the board edge, it was just the chariot that went in.
Oh, was it? Okay, my mistake.
And so once again, they got to stand and shoot and did 2 wounds this time.
They did
so much more
damage.
effective than they had been, but still 3 wounds on the chariot at that point. Right?
I think it's 4 total.
Oh, so just 2
I
left.
think the goblin ones have 3 wounds, so it's half dead. And then I don't think any other combats happened.
No other combats. The goblins started to move around the trolls a little bit. The squigs just pushed up behind the trolls. Magic got dispelled because, again, now you're kind of out of balance with the casting versus dispel dice against dwarfs.
So he wasn't really doing anything.
Yeah.
The goblins, the wolf riders, I think were, if I can give an MVP preemptively, they were mine. They were so fun to play with. I loved this unit just running around in the back, and I felt like I had so many options, which was part of the fun. I ended up kind of trying to get them behind his left flank, my right, to where I would have a variety of units to charge depending on what was happening. The goal being theoretically the Longbeards eventually to get the +2 for the rear and then negate rank bonus. Not that he had much rank bonus at this point. But you know what I mean.
Yeah. And with those warriors threatening the flank now, just anything to help disrupt. And
so all that going on. I think I get a silly scatter too, I should note, from the stone thrower this turn, where I aimed at the Longbeards.
You aimed at the Quarrelers, because now I think you couldn't see the Longbeards.
That's right. Yeah. I aimed at the Quarrelers, but I got a 10-inch scatter. And because you can maybe see it in the video, but everything was really clustered in here, and I got a 10-inch, and it just went over the small 10-man warrior unit in the woods. And I think I killed 2 guys out of there, or 3 maybe. 2 or 3 out of that, I feel like. Just randomly. Wasn't expecting
2 died, but the guy who got the direct hit didn't.
Yeah, that's right.
He rolled a 1 on that.
That's right. And so that was just a very lucky scatter. But again, I guess that just kind of speaks to the power of stone throwers.
Yeah.
Where even if you miss, sometimes because
in the thick of the battle.
In Warhammer Fantasy, a lot of stuff gets gummed up. You might miss what you wanted, but you might hit something else, and it could be your own guys, admittedly. But I fortunately evaded that. I don't think the R boys really... You said they squabbled, so they didn't do anything.
I am seeing a later note I made here that seems to indicate that you did get in with the spiders as well. So somehow I missed noting that they charged, but it looks like they were in the combat.
I think they were out the previous turn, but at this point, I think they were far behind the chariot, who was like right there.
Oh, right, because we're on turn 4 now, so they would have moved up on turn 3 and then charged.
They were still behind the chariot, but they have an 18-inch threat, so they were in. And then, I think combats, how they went... I'm going to be honest, they didn't go as well as I wanted. We'll start with the trolls. I remember this roll, I think, is the roll I remember the most in the game. Picked up my 9 dice. I need 4s to hit, and I hit with 3. So that was like, okay.
But before that even happened, Yorth has the Mastering of Swiftness. So he got to strike first, actually,
with a flaming
his
attack.
Flaming attack.
And negating regen across the entire unit.
Yep. So he did 2
Which
wounds
I knew.
to the trolls.
Yep. He didn't get rid of any attacks.
Yes, because he only got 2 wounds, but...
I'll take it, I guess.
So anyways, then the trolls go.
And I hit with 3 out of 9. So that was
already
not
bad.
great.
Yeah.
And then I think I wound 1.
Yeah, only killed 1.
So I kill 1 guy, and then he swings back, and I don't get any saves because regen's
3
now
more
negated.
wounds, yeah.
So, and then I lose by a bajillion, and at this point, I think they're out of Gitface's leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So they just auto flee.
Yeah, they had taken enough,
Yeah.
plus the rank bonus and things that they couldn't pass, so they auto fled.
Yeah, so I give up those all 6 glory points for 1 dwarf dude, but that's what I get for the secondary run through that killed 5 slayers. So we'll say that
I guess
that's well, that's how it goes. So they got absolutely eviscerated,
And then they fled and only rolled a 4.
And I think he
then
ran
the
me
dwarfs
down.
also rolled exactly that, so
Yeah.
a 5 - 1, and then ran down the trolls. So extra bad.
Yep.
But that triggered a whole big thing, because that then caused panic in the goblin archers and in the squigs who were right behind them. The
Which then-
archers passed, so they just held their ground.
I can't believe that happened too. Too bad it didn't happen to the squigs, because
inverse would have been way better, because then the slayers would have just run into the squigs and it would have been combat, not chaos.
Yeah, so then the game stopped for 15 minutes while I tried to really understand how loose squigs work.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear a listener maybe explain this in a comment, and really just... It explains how when they fail a panic chest of any kind, they become loose squigs and they scatter 2d6.
And the hoppers throw their riders immediately.
Etc. Yeah, so we replaced some models, etc. But at first I was like, well, can I hit the unit I'm already in? And then there were some questions around that. And eventually we just said, no, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Let's just say you just go out from wherever you are. You would walk through a squig that's already in your unit that is also becoming loose.
Right, because it's all happening at once. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So we said the first time, but then subsequently, if they hit each other, we would bounce
pop.
off and attack or whatever. So that took a while to resolve.
Yeah, I have a quick rundown bullet
Please.
list here. The first one went into the slayers and killed 1. Then it bounced into the goblin archers and killed 1, and then went clear. The next 2 just went clear in opposite directions. The next one went into the fleeing herders, because they just fled. They don't go crazy, obviously.
Killed 1, I think.
Yep, killed 1, which then bounced them into the archers, where they killed another one, and then they bounced into the woods, which then we had to pause and see, wait, did they die when they go in the woods like the fanatics do? It doesn't seem like it, so we didn't do that. Then the next one bounced into another squig that was already out, so ate him.
Yep.
And then the next one went towards the archers but missed, and then the final one went into another squig but didn't kill it, and then bounced away towards the baseline. So hopefully we're aligning the video so that you're kind of seeing that, just like all of a sudden they just go poof, and they're just all over their skin.
Yes.
Squigs everywhere on the goblin left flank now. Complete chaos.
So essentially, in that fell swoop, my left flank is now gone.
Yes.
I have some goblins, but they're goblins.
Yeah.
So, and they're
Not
Slayer.
looking good.
So they're gone. On the far right, and then we'll end with the middle combat. The chariot, I think, did okay.
Yeah.
We kill a bunch of guys.
3 thunderers died to impact hits.
Yeah.
The spider rider killed 1.
Yeah. I didn't do as much damage as I guess I would have liked, but I won by, like, I would say 4 or 5.
Yeah,
but
I think there was only like 1 or 2 dwarfs left at that point.
But
so.
he passed with his reroll because he was in the BSB. I think he needed a 4.
4, yep.
And he passed it with a 3 on the second roll.
Yeah.
So that was a killer, I'm going to be honest, because I was really hoping I could bowl
Just
through
blast
there.
through them and then have
And then
another whole turn to move around.
Right,
Yeah.
and then next turn, be in the rear, etc., figure stuff out. But that really held me up, and now I'm a chariot stuck in combat.
Yeah.
So that stunk. And then we go to the middle combat.
I do want to just point out you did gain your first loot in that combat.
That's true.
Because the way that works is if you beat a dwarf unit that started as one of the defensive units in combat, you roll a die and add the difference in combat res, and if you get 7 or more, then you steal a loot. If you wipe out the unit, then you get all of the loot that they were holding.
Right.
So you gained 1 here.
Yep. And then middle combat, I get the charge. I declared a challenge. I was very aggressive with challenges.
Which I think was the right choice with Gitface.
Gitface has Grog's Dead Art armor, which is just that 1-up. I don't think the dwarf characters were super killy here.
Undag Mossbrow was...
This guy was a BSB.
So he just had the Rune of Battle and nothing. Guto Stoneroot he was not a killy character.
Yeah.
He was a fragile character.
Right. So all their characters weren't particularly threatening. I just used the one-hit wonder just to get it, because I thought, well, let's just try to get as many wounds as possible no matter what. I just want to win by a bajillion combat res so I can hopefully break this unit.
Yeah.
He accepts with the champion,
Yeah,
which is
of
wise.
course, thematic as well. Guto Stoneroot is the nephew of the king, and so the Longbeard is like, let me, youngling, you don't need to do this.
Sure.
Watch me show you how it's done.
And then Gitface grabs his big thumping club, twists it a little bit. The green magic comes up to staff. But then I guess he gets a little stupid. I think only hit with one attack out of his 3. But it's at strength 7, so he wounds and absolutely smites the champion into paste. Wish it would have been by 2, but we'll take it.
Yeah,
and then
so Guto saw how not to do it.
Yes, and then I think the 2 other guys in the front rank, the normal boys, miss everything. Them being weapon skill 5 is a big deal. Hate hitting on 4s. Hitting on 4s is the most random thing imaginable. However, the champion, I believe, who is like a super orc especially for biggins, has 3 attacks, and I think I hit with all 3, and I think I wounded with all 3, or 2 at least, and I think he peeled off a couple more guys. What do your notes say?
I don't have any more dying in my notes, but it's possible I missed one.
Oh, okay. I think he did pretty well, I thought. Anyway, maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe he made
you
armor
might have,
saves.
because I don't have anything about the dwarfs hitting back, so maybe they all died. Only Guto struck back, but he managed to kill 2 orcs.
Yes.
So that was pretty nice.
I believe what ended up happening was I killed a champion, and then another guy or 2.
2 more to clear
and then
the front
he
rank.
cleared a couple as well with his BSB, and then I don't think I won by much.
By 1.
And he passed with flying colors, of course, and he's got a reroll. So that was just fine.
Yeah.
And now I know I'm about to be flank charged, which stinks.
So it's not looking good.
So basically, I'm not regretting the charges, but I'm like, yeah, these charges weren't good. But it is what it is.
It wasn't what you had planned and talked about in our last episode, where you were hoping to be able to line things up with your superior charge range and kind of make these big combined charges.
Yeah, and instead it felt like it was just a lot of, I'm going to run this single unit into this single unit. And admittedly, I think Gitface was maybe one of the units that could do that.
Especially into the now heavily weakened from shooting and fanatics Longbeards.
So if I had gotten maybe a little bit luckier with my to-hit rolls, again, I think that is a highlight of the Longbeards, that they're weapon skill 5. So they're even with Gitface, because he's weapon skill 5. So he's only hitting on 4s, and he's a hero. So for just a plain Jane captain, maybe if that's an empty, I don't remember what my rolls were specifically, but maybe he had 2 3s in there. I don't recall. So that could have been a big deal. So shout out to the Longbeards again.
Yeah, for holding the line.
So at that point, I'll be honest, I think I was like, okay, I don't think I have a chance now. But it ended up being a lot closer than I thought. So let's jump into the dwarf next
I have
turn.
2 notes at the end of your turn 4 that I just want to share. One was I just made a note that you had been doing a great job reminding John that he had hatred.
Yes.
So of all the little nuanced rules that we often forget,
that one.
You did remember to tell John, I think every single time, for him to reroll hits against you for hatred. So that was good on you. And
it totally
probably
mattered.
Ended up helping Guto
I think it
kill
totally
a couple
mattered in many situations. But I was like, no, just reroll it. Kill me good. Do it.
And then it was also at this moment during one of these combats that John realized that he should have used his Horn of Dismay, the horn with the rune of dismay on it, at the end of his previous turn, right when you were now in charge range and about to charge, because that's literally what it's designed to do. And if you're not familiar with that master rune makes all enemy units take a leadership test, and if they fail, then they're not allowed to charge on the following turn. I also told John at the beginning of the battle what it was and said that the enemy unit couldn't move at all if they failed.
Yeah, when you said that, I was like, oh crap, I have no chance.
Yeah.
Then I really freaked out, because I'm like, I've got that back line spider unit. I'm please.
And that would be way too powerful for the 40 or 45 points it was anyway. So it makes sense that it just can't charge. But that would have been huge here, because then the trolls wouldn't have charged. The slayers would have gotten a charge on them, which obviously we know didn't end up mattering. But also the Longbeards may have gotten the charge on Gitface and, some of those things. So it was a bummer that happened. I also made a note that, well, as the referee and the person teaching my friend to play for the first time, I should have remembered that and reminded him. But c'est la vie, that's how it goes sometimes. So just wanted to share some of those realizations that were happening throughout the game. But
Sure.
rolling into Dwarf turn 4 for the relief force, we are now on a 2-up. They're coming in because it gets one easier each time. So,
and I think you got both, right?
yeah, so the Mossbrook Scout Patrol, the Rangers arrived and showed up behind the Thunderers, hoping to bolster the line against the Spiders and the Chariot. And the Warriors showed up behind the Spiders by the cart to threaten them and kind of keep them moving along as well. Then the Quarrelers decided to just... Oh, no, they fired. They did not. They just shot their crossbows at Orcs Goblins. So I guess there was no more other movement.
Yeah.
What did the Slayers do? Did I have anything about that?
I think they may have... I don't remember if they charged the Goblins. I think they may have charged the Goblins. And
They may have.
And I
and
think,
you fled.
because I made a comment about I don't think I can stand and shoot because he's too close.
Yeah.
Which is surprising because it's a dwarf. And then
No, that I think was against the Error Boys when there's that one lone dwarf warrior.
there was a. Oh,
But
you're
anyways,
right.
I think your archers.
There was like a
fled,
comment on
perhaps.
how that was completely irrelevant. I said, I think I held. Now that I think about it, because I said, is there any reason for me to not just flee here? I said, is there like on this flank at that
Right, because
point?
they can't really influence the battle at this point
Yeah.
to get loot points or anything.
This is like maybe at this point after the squigs hit them a few times, 17 goblins with short bows, night
Yeah.
goblins. So they're leadership 5. They're completely on the other side of the board, unsupported, and they're immediately adjacent to, admittedly, a heavily wounded but still half full Slayer unit with a, pardon me, is it a Dragon Slayer? The hero
Yeah.
level version in there as well. So they're completely outmatched. So I think I might have held and let him chop me up. I don't recall, or I fled.
I think you fled
Fair enough.
because I don't have any notes in here about
Okay.
a combat happening. Anyways, so into the shooting phase, the Quarrelers fired into Gornax Goblins, killed 4. So now they are taking a panic test, but they pass and hold. There is now no more shooting because the final Thunderer or 2
They're probably
are
by
in
get
combat.
face. Yeah.
So the combats start with the Thunderers versus the Chariot and Spider Riders. The Chariots and etc. is all going first, and one Thunderer dies to a boar, and then saved against an orc then there was only one Thunderer left at that point, and he saved against a wound from the orc. The orcs, of course, still win, but the dwarf passed his leadership test again, once again, horribly holding up this flank that could be starting to roll up into the Quarrelers and doing a lot more damage. So I think that was another key moment for the dwarfs holding the line, which is just wild. A single dwarf Thunderer by himself against now 3 Spider Riders and a boar chariot.
I think it just goes to show the chariots, the flaws of chariots, because I think when you're getting into the game, they look really crazy.
Yeah.
But like once they hold the first time, it's like they're paperweights. They just
Yeah.
have so little damage output, and it just stinks. And it's like, I can't. They don't outnumber anything.
Yeah,
And
they
I'll
really
admittedly-
need to charge in cooperation with a large block that's
Yeah.
going to bring that extra static combat res.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then you didn't roll high enough to get loot that time.
Nope.
The Warriors then charged into the flank of Gitface and the Orcs and managed to kill 2. Gitface still threw out a challenge, of course, and Guto now accepts because the Warrior unit doesn't have a champion, and the Longbeard champion is dead. And he just killed him outright.
Yeah,
which is pretty
I
rough.
actually rolled all. He made it up for his last turn. He
Yeah.
hit with every attack. I think he wounded with 2.
Yep, and then he failed both armor saves.
saves.
Which is rough with the Gromrill, but I think you were still high enough to knock that down. What, 2 points? 1 point?
1 point. So he was 2 5-ups.
Yeah, and so failed both of those. So that was sad to see the nephew of the king fall. But the Orc champion then hacked into the Warriors and managed to kill 2, and then 2 boys went into the Longbeards and didn't kill any. So that left 3 Longbeards to fight back into
And
the
I think
Orcs,
this
which was
was
nice.
a turn too where I thought they had the great weapons that I messed up pretty bad on.
So maybe the Warriors wouldn't have even... Well, actually...
That's where I think it messed me up, because I think they killed 2 on that
Yes,
side.
they did kill 2.
And
yeah.
I don't know.
If they would have. If
So
they didn't
this
have
is
great
where
weapons.
I goofed up against myself, because I was like, yeah, no, you wound me on 3s. We rolled it, and he was, because he's learning the game. He's like, oh yeah, sure, and he's rolling, and I'm like, okay, I die 2 more here, And then I went back, and then that's when I was having him take saves or whatever, and you're like, well, no, shouldn't it be this?
Because they have shields, and you're like,
And
no,
I
they
was
don't.
like,
They have great weapons.
Right, and then what we ended up doing, I was like, just give him the shield saves. He failed, I think, both
Anyways,
anyway.
yeah, so two
it didn't
died.
end up being a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, and who knows what John rolled anyways on the attacks,
Yeah, I
but
don't
it
know.
came out in the wash.
Indeed.
3 Longbeards attacked into the Orcs because they were still alive this time, and then rolled 2 1s to wound. So that was sad. They did nothing and ended up a tie combat, as a matter of fact. So after factoring in the flank charge and no ranks from the Orcs, but the Orcs killing a lot more guys and all that jazz and banners and blah, 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 it all came out as a tie.
I'm just
So
proud of Git Face. He did good.
he's hacking people to pieces.
At least he's
2
he's
challenges
doing
won
stuff.
in a round each.
I'll take it.
He's he should go down in the books for that one.
We'll keep him.
Whether he, I guess if he made it back to the lands he came from, the Badlands, where he was trying to come
his
back,
war boss will accept him with open
I think
arms.
he did a good job. Then at the end of his turn, John did decide to just go ahead and use the Horn of Dismay because it's kind of too late
Might
now
as
anyways,
well.
but figured he'd try it. And the Goblin Archers and the Arrow Boys ended up failing, but nobody else. So they couldn't charge, which they weren't gonna anyways. but-
Keeley, it could have mattered, but the one unit where it would have was the Wolf Riders in the rear.
Yes, that would have been huge, and he was really counting on that
Yeah.
because of his guys coming in.
But that
as a
was the
relief
one
force.
unit that
Yeah.
I think passed, so that was nice.
Yeah. But anyways, that was the end of Dwarf turn 4, and then rolling into Orc turn 5, everybody passed Animosity this time, so the fight's really going, and the Orcs are now all focused on the Dwarfs, so everybody's doing fine with Animosity. The Goblins and the Herders kept fleeing, and then, that's all of the sort of like compulsory stuff. Do you remember what happened after that?
I thought there was a big
Oh, no, there's still all the Squigs and the Fanatics.
I was going to say, I thought the Fanatic did something pretty big.
Oh, right. So this is another thing I think we paused and looked at the order of operations, and you declare charges before you do compulsory.
Yeah.
Because then you might still have to complete the charge, even if now there's a fanatic in the way that didn't used to be, etc.
Yeah.
So you declared a charge Spider Riders into the rear of the Quarrelers.
Yep.
So that was, again, the big moment where, that since they didn't fail that Horn of Dismay test, and then the Goblins with Gornak charged the flank of the Longbeards. At this point, Gornak decided to stay behind and didn't charge with the unit. That's how we play that. I guess does
I've
anyone
always
else
just
play
kinda done
differently? If the character's in the unit, when the charge is declared, do they have to go in, or are you allowed to declare with
good
the unit
question.
and leave the character behind?
I never even really thought about that.
Yeah.
That is a good question.
So listeners, let us know in the comments how you guys play that.
Because I guess
we've
you couldn't
done that
leave
pretty
the unit until
the move phase.
the move
So do you
phase,
have
which
to
would
move
have
out
been
in the
after.
previous turn, and then yeah,
That's a
So I
good
don't know.
question.
I'm not too terribly concerned if we even just keep house rule playing that, but
Fair enough. It makes wizards able to be slightly more safe.
yeah, bunker a little longer, sort of a thing. But anyway, so that's what happened. The Gornak stayed back, but the Goblins charged into the flank of the Longbeards. So now we have a really wild combat happening, which is Longbeards and Orc Boys in the front, and then there are Goblin Spears in the flank of the Longbeards and Dwarf Warriors in the flank of the Orcs. So
Yes.
a big multi-combat happening there. With all of that done, we then moved into the compulsory moves. So the Fanatics, one Fanatic went into the woods and died, but on his way went through some Orcs and Dwarf Warriors, killing 3 Orcs and 5 Dwarfs. So that was much worse for the Dwarfs, obviously. That was half of the unit that had come in as a relief force in
And
that
had already
jungle.
taken
Several casualties.
from 2 from the Stone Thrower, and I think 2 more. So I think there was 1 dwarf left.
Yeah, and I think he's the one that eventually made his way over towards the Error Boys.
Correct.
Who did we... Oh, so both... This was another question that came up. We decided that Fanatics doing 25% casualties would cause panic, even though these units were in
right.
close combat.
Yeah, this is the whimper. You'd think, oh, the Git Face is going to go out with a bang. No, he goes out with a whimper.
so once
that
again,
unit fails panic.
Let us know, was that correct? Should these units, while in combat, after taking 25% casualties from Fanatics, have taken panic tests? Our understanding was yes.
Yeah, we checked that
And I
online
think
app
it
that has the
specifically
fact, and it called it out.
Yeah.
So
anyways, let us know.
I think we did it right.
Anyways, the Orcs failed, and so now the Orc Boys are fleeing, and the Warrior unit passed. The
I
Warrior
think I got ran down.
Yep, the one Warrior pursued and caught Gitface and his unit. Now, this is another thing that we decided not to spend the time looking up, but I could swear that in an FAQ or an errata or the annual somewhere, there was a clarification about who is allowed to declare a pursuit in the case of a fleeing due to panic during a combat. And
Really?
I think you only can do it if you won combat the last round, which the Dwarfs didn't. It was a tie.
That's true.
So I'm not sure that they were allowed to do that. So if
Okay.
anybody knows where that is, let me know, because I feel like I read it, but I
That
didn't
could
want
have
to
been a big
spend
deal.
20 minutes looking through
Maybe. I don't
everything.
It might not have changed the outcome, really, now that I think about it.
It's hard to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I
Well-
mean, the Orcs could have rallied. And
Well, they had a loot counter, though, because I think at one point they gained a loot counter from that
That's
first
possible.
turn. So
against the Longbeards. Yeah.
maybe it would have. I don't know.
Either way, that's what happened. So the single warrior chases down Gitface and his unit, and then is standing in front of the Error Boys, essentially. We truncated what was happening with the squigs, because this was just getting chaotic. Some squigs ate each other. One ate an Error Boy. Most just landed clear. That's all we wrote down for that.
Yep. They were. We I think wisely, John was like, put dice next to all the ones you haven't done. And I was like, that's a good idea. So then we
We
just
just remember, yeah.
Yeah, because they were
Made it
all
quicker.
they were all over the place.
Yeah. The Goblin Archers did pass their rally test, so they must have fled, and then just reformed to face the Slayers.
Sweet.
Yep. And then
I guess I didn't shoot then. I don't remember shooting, but maybe I did and they just did nothing, or maybe they killed a Slayer. I think at that point I was like, whatever happens over there is kind of inconsequential to the outcome, because they don't have any
loot that you can
loot.
take, yeah, and you're
I
not going
don't
to kill
have any
all
loot,
of them to get rid
so
of their glory
They
tokens.
were just
yeah.
having their own adventure over there.
Yeah. You did try to cast again, Gaze of Mork, and this is when you remembered the Madcap mushrooms, and it got it off for you, but with a
He
really low
dispelled
roll,
it.
so with 4 dispel dice,
Yeah.
it just easily went away. And then your Spider Rider killed the last Thunderer, took all of the loot then from the Thunderer unit, and then the spiders that had charged into the Quarrelers killed 2 Dwarfs with spears, and then one of the spiders killed another one, leaving 3 attacks back from the Quarrelers, and they hit with all of them, but then rolled no wounds. So once again, the Dwarfs with their bendy axes.
Yeah, that strength 3 really comes back.
Yeah. They failed their break test, though, and then the spiders caught the fleeing Dwarfs. So this was also a big moment for
That was nice
breaking the
because-
back of the Dwarf line.
Yeah, because that was, I think, the first time I'd broken something on the charge. I think that's the only time that happened in this game. So that felt nice.
Especially after being held up by 1 or 2 Thunderers for 2 turns.
Indeed. I was hoping I would get something like that. It was also a big deal because Gitface, even though he ended up getting dispersed by that warrior, he at the very least killed the BSB. So the reroll wasn't there for this at this point.
That was actually key, yeah.
So,
to not be able to get the
'cause
reroll.
I think at multiple points the reroll ended up mattering. So the BSB paid itself off.
I would say so.
Many times over, at least in delaying.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And then, I've lost my train of thought. Continue. Sorry.
I think that was essentially it.
Yeah.
I don't have any notes about what the Goblin Spears did against the
I don't think they
Longbeards, so it
killed
must have
anybody.
been nothing. I think at that point the Longbeards were down to only 1 or 2 ranks, and so
They
there was
had
only
one rank. I remember now.
so there's only 3 goblins
There's-
hitting 1 dwarf.
Yes, so there's 3 night goblins hitting 1 dwarf. There's 3 longbeards in the front. And I don't think I was doing anything, but he just kept holding.
Yeah,
because
I don't think he did anything back.
Because I think I have like a rank and an outnumber.
Right.
And that's it. He's got a banner, I've got a banner, and he maybe
Actually, at
is-
that point they didn't have a banner because I didn't take a normal banner and the BSB was
that's
dead.
right. So maybe I'm winning by a few, but I don't think I was
But he
breaking.
held, yeah.
So
Yeah. Then Dwarf turn 5, the Dwarf Warriors that had single Dwarf Warrior who had chased down Gitface decided to charge the Error Boys. This is where he was then too close for stand and shoot, which is just hilarious. He was within 3 inches.
yeah.
The Rangers who had just popped up decided to charge the Spider Riders, but they just fled and easily outpaced the Dwarfs' charge
That's-
range of 6 inches.
I want to make a minor note. I think that's a difference for me too, because that thematically felt like an okay thing to do and didn't feel gamey at all.
Absolutely,
Even though it
yeah.
was done in interest of the game, but like I could theoretically say narratively, they've got the treasure. They want to keep the treasure.
And I mean, a light cavalry unit fleeing from a direct charge by a big unit with
Formed
great
infantry.
weapons. Yeah, absolutely. It makes
fair
sense.
enough.
Yeah, I would not say choosing a flee reaction, which is a core part of the game mechanics, I
Fair
don't
enough.
think is ever would
Fair
not
enough.
be by default gamey.
Sure.
So anyways, the Rangers then just kind of shuffle forward 3 inches. And at this point in turn 5, we kind of realize the Rangers are going to do nothing which is too bad because the last time we did this scenario, the Dwarf Rangers also showed up and did nothing. So once again, we have not proven that they're worth their points.
The unit that we tried to set up to work as best as possible with this scenario still failed. Admittedly, he got pretty unlucky with his deployment rolls, but...
and if he had deployed them even in the woods, maybe that would have mattered. But anyways, the warriors at the rear who had popped in to threaten the spiders by the cart just marched forward 6 inches towards the spiders.
Yep.
The auxiliary picks and undak charged the squigs, or one squig that was in front of them, and killed it. Because if you make contact with a loose squig with a charge, it just dies instantly.
Correct.
The slayers charged the archers, and this is the time where you just decided to hold, because what the heck, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
And it's just more fun to roll dice than to flee off the table, I guess you decided. The Slayers then, at this point, there's no shooting left, so we skip that phase, then move into the fighting. Slayers killed 4 goblins. Goblins didn't kill any, so they lose by 1, failed their break test, and the Slayers pursued but didn't catch them. So it's just cool. Stuff's happening on that side of the board that's inconsequential
Green
but fun.
death.
Yeah. The lone warrior against the air boy missed, even with his hatred reroll, which you again reminded John of, so nice work.
Okay.
The air boys also did nothing, but because they have a rank, they win by 1 and outnumber, so they should have won by 2, right?
Yes. Was
I
I
guess we
having
messed that
him
up.
only winning by 1?
That's what I wrote down, but either way, the
Whoops.
dwarves passed the break test, and so the single warrior is still fighting the air boys.
Yep.
And then the goblins versus longbeards. The longbeards actually killed one this time, and the goblins killed none, but they still lost the combat by 1 because of being outnumbered and flank charged and yada yada.
Rear, yeah.
So they hold, and that was the end of dwarf turn 5. Things are now really chaotic. Things are like you've kind of wrapped around with spider riders and flanking, and the slayers are just running off. Squigs are still going wild, and now we're moving into the final orc turn 6.
Yeah, this is where we kind of had a weird situation because of how the wolf riders, the spider riders, wolf riders overran the correlers kind of into the back of my own side.
Yeah, and you'll
units.
see this in the video, but they would have hit the spiders and thus not been able to reach the longbeards.
It was a weird
Or
situation.
hit the spearmen.
So we talked a little bit about because obviously it's the start of my turn. I think I did animosity was
Yeah,
fine.
let me hit this. Everybody passed animosity. Vile Nibla's goblins fled off the board. The archers fled off the board. The herders fled off the board. The spider riders that had fled from the rangers rallied. So
my wolf riders just loved rallying. They were like the guys who could
the right flank spider riders
they
were
rallied
brave.
twice. Yeah.
But anyway, so the weird charge, you want to explain how we resolved that?
Well, we kind of, I think, ended up, it was a weird situation to where I think if you were to play rules as written, I couldn't have.
Right.
But it was this, I guess, again, thinking narratively, does this make any sense? Because we have pretty much 4 spider riders who are clearly there's the rear of those longbeards. We should be they're directly in front of us, but because my 5th guy is
clipping the goblin spearman,
I can't make it.
Yeah.
And you can't do a weird reform thing. And we know they're fast cav, but I don't believe
Can't do that on the charge.
Yeah, so that's not how that works. But we kind of, I guess, met in the middle, and we said we would allow the charge to happen, but I could only get a guy in or 2 guys.
I think we
in.
let 2, due to base
Which probably
size and
would
whatever.
have only... I mean, maybe I could have got it in 3, but that seemed more than nice to me.
And that's one of those instances where having a third party referee is helpful, because then I could step in, and obviously Grant really wants it to happen and John really wants it to not happen.
Sure.
But I can say, look, it just makes sense that these guys would be able to just reform a little bit and kind of get in there.
Or leave that one guy a little bit behind while the other 4 get in or whatever.
Yeah. So we just allowed for it. It added to the carnage. I don't know if you're familiar with Gaslands, but there's a rule in that game.
The apocalyptic car game?
Yeah, and one of the rules is the rule of carnage. If you're ever unsure about a rule, do the thing that does more damage and causes more chaos.
I like that rule.
So we chose that because, again, otherwise the spider riders are just stalled out and doing nothing. The dwarfs aren't close enough to charge them, so the game's just kind of over for them. So this was just more fun. So we made that happen.
Yep. That ended up being very consequential, of course, as I'm sure you guys can imagine.
Yeah,
it's a
an extra
rear charge.
+2 on
yeah.
yeah.
So that was part of why it was a big deal. I don't think any others. I think. This was another thing where I could have. I think been maybe this. I don't know why. I think I get this weird attitude where I'm like, it's kind of over anyway. So I just do stupid things without like actually counting out the math. I did a charge with the chariot because he deployed some.
The final unit of warriors popped in the back
deep,
line. Yeah.
Like he did a ranked 10 wide with no depth, which he's very new. Probably not the best way to deploy those, but I think he was thinking he might theoretically get the charge on the rear of the spiders
and then get a lot of attacks.
Get like 7 hatred attacks on him, which makes sense then. But I was like, this is like the one time because he'll have no rank bonus, right? So
you'll get all the impact hits,
right? So I was like, I'll just go for it. Of course, it didn't really work out. I think I won the combat, but it wasn't consequential at all. So I charged that with the chariot.
Boar chariot into the warriors.
But the chariot had a loot counter, and I could have just not done
Run away with the loot counter,
and that would have been a point for me that I just frankly ended up throwing away. But so that was a misplay, I guess. Just thinking, this looks fun. You never really will get that sort of situation to come up many times. And I like the idea of, I guess, Rule of Carnage. You brought it up. I'm like, hey, I could just pick up 10 guys maybe here. And that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
So got maybe tunnel visioned on that. I don't
but at
think
that point,
I had
that
any...
even still wasn't a bad idea. The way that the chariot ended up dying, which we'll get to later, was not necessarily... It was a very bizarre set of circumstances that led to the death of the chariot.
Yes.
But we'll get there when we get there.
I don't think I had anything else. Everybody was pretty much in combat at this point. The big thing for this turn, my final turn, was just that Wolf Rider flank, or rear, I mean.
Yeah. The Fanatic... I think there was only one left at this point, headed towards the Longbeards, but didn't make it. 2 squigs rolled doubles and blew up. 2 of them ran off the board, and none of the rest of them hit anything. And then I've got that the Rock Lava fired at the now stranded Rangers, but scattered off into nothing, and that your Gaze of Mork was dispelled.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
I don't think I got a spell off in the last
after
3
Vile
turns
Nibla
of
died?
the game. Yeah. Well, I think I got 1 off after he died, but that's it. So... yeah. Miscast protection is the name of the game, is what I've learned.
I think especially with Orcs and Goblins because of how devastating that miscast table is. The fact that you can't even die on the regular one and then it's an even easier chance and you can die is rough.
Well, it's like, and I don't want to get into that too much here, but it's like multiple choices are like, the one I got was the worst possible one, but there's also ones that are like, you just take D6 strength 6
so
hits.
It could
or
also
something.
still
so it's
kill
like,
you,
I could just die there too. And then, so there's multiple things where it's like, my wizard just dies. Pick up your wizard. Regardless. That was pretty much what happened. I guess we can go over the combats. I don't remember me killing much in the center combat, but I think I broke him finally because of all this the static res.
So I've got spiders and goblins versus the Longbeards. The Spider Riders didn't do anything. The Night Goblins didn't do anything. The Longbeards got 2 hits on the Spider Riders and 2 wounds and no saves. So that was pretty big, killing a couple of them. But because of the rear charge and the flank and all that, the Dwarfs still lost by 3. And they failed their break test. Of course, they only roll a 4 for their flee, and both of the pursuing units catch them. But the Goblin Pursuit ends up going through the Fanatic, takes 4 more hits, so that is still dealing damage even this late after the Fanatic's released. 2 of the Goblins died from those hits, and that then caused panic, and then they flee further toward their home board edge. So, just, again,
the Fanatics did a lot of damage.
Or Orcs and Goblins chaos completely. And then the Orc Error Boys versus the Lone Dwarf Warrior was nothing. They both missed, didn't kill anybody, but then lost again, and then passed the break test again. So that was just a funny little thing at the end where there's this Lone Dwarf Warrior fighting 10 Orc Error Boys. You should have lapped round. Oh, but you didn't win. So you did win. So you could have been lapping around. This would have been exactly the time. You'd be getting so many more.
I think I've said this a few times, listeners. I never remember to lap round, ever. I don't know why. And there's multiple times I should have lapped round. I should have lapped round in that center combat.
Yeah, with the Goblins.
I should have lapped round with the orc guys. After that first turn, I won that combat. I should have lapped around multiple times, Cam, and I never lap around because I just don't
remember it.
I don't remember it for some reason.
Sheet.
I need to write it on my hand in a Sharpie marker, I think, and write just lap round just to consider it. That's the problem. It doesn't even enter my realm of consideration.
Option,
so I just need something. But yeah, no, there were multiple times where I think lapping around would have benefited me, and I did not do it. There was the time in the right flank with the chariot and the riders. I wasn't getting all my attacks. I could have lapped around with those wolf riders onto that Thunderer many times in this battle. And I thought about that
and
later
that would have been
on.
a great thing for a third-party person like me to remind you of.
No, you're fine. I didn't mean it that way. But
I know you didn't, but it's true. Yeah.
But yeah, no, just good learning experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but that was very fortunate, though. I mean, regardless, he rolled pretty good, and I was lucky that he finally failed that. I think he needed a 6. Once he failed,
didn't fail this turn.
Oh,
he passed again.
I meant, sorry, I didn't clarify. I meant the Longbeards.
Oh, yes.
Because, frankly, they were the unit I was mostly focused on. They had all the loot counters,
right.
So I picked up another 6 there.
Right.
Or they didn't
whatever
have
was
all
the
6.
remaining.
Yeah, so I picked up all those ones. That was a big deal. Whereas the one warrior, he didn't have any anyway.
Right,
so
it
whatever
didn't
was
matter.
going on there was just like a faff.
Yeah. The boar chariot did amazing. It hit the dwarves, killed 3 with impact hits, and then one of the orcs on the chariot killed another one. The boars didn't do anything, but that meant there were no dwarves that could attack back because there were only 4 that would have been in line with the chariot. So the dwarfs lost by 2, but passed their leadership test.
Yep.
This was another weird thing because they were only in 1 rank, and you had hit the side of the unit. You had killed
The side
all the guys in front of you, and that essentially meant you were no longer in base contact. So
I think we determined he would just stick in, or did we say he fought out? I don't even remember how we resolved this.
yeah, so it was a weird one. What we decided to do was to just slide the dwarfs down
Yeah.
because it felt like a weird situation for the combat to just
Right?
end.
Can you kill yourself out? That just seems odd.
One of the things that came up earlier in the game was, at least when you're doing casualties from shooting and magic, you're supposed to pull casualties equally off of both sides of the unit, which can sometimes matter for where the side of a unit ends up for future charges or flanks, or where exactly they are for fleeing off the table and things like that.
Yeah. Which might have mattered on that turn 1, by the way. I don't remember.
So in this case, I don't have in my notes whether this would have mattered, but I wonder if pulling them equally off each side in melee would have meant there was still 1 or 2 guys in base contact with the chariot rather than pulling off the 4 that were literally right in front of the chariot.
Or do you have to prioritize the guys who would be targeted?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I don't know. So if you guys know and you know where it would clarify this, is that pulling equally off each side also true in melee? And in this particular case, would you slide the dwarfs over to stay in combat, or say that the chariot just blasted through their line and they're just not in combat anymore, but that leaves the dwarfs allowed to essentially flank charge next turn?
Right, yeah, because that's also weird.
So that's just
Do I
worse
get
for
to
losing.
overrun?
Yeah. Right. So I don't know. That's weird.
yeah.
I guess, again, in a referee type situation.
I think we did it in a reasonable way that made sense without having to do a lot of
too much
rule book
house ruling or
looking
whatever.
and figuring out.
Because I think a way that would make sense to me in that case would be that you would get overrun and just go past them, so you're not penalized by a flank charge.
Sure.
And that feels like what's literally happening.
Right.
Is a giant chariot is just literally plowing through the side of a thin unit of dwarf warriors. But I don't know that the rules would back that interpretation up at all. So
yeah.
anyways, that's what happened. And that was, I think, everything for Orc turn 6.
Yep.
So rolling into Dwarf turn 6, not a lot left to happen. Most people are dead.
There was a lot of dead.
Auxiliary picks and the general pivoted to face forward.
They wanted to look how they were at the beginning.
Yeah, so John did his best to try to have them end exactly where they started. So I guess we'll find out on the video whether that was true or not. No other dwarfs were in a position to bother moving. The rangers were too far away, and the slayers is kind of whatever, because they're just over. The archers they were fighting have fled off the board. The orc arrow boys did manage to kill the last warrior this round.
Yeah, the final round of the game.
But I think he might deserve a name, and maybe he gets leveled up to a hero or at least a champion.
Can you give an orc hero a bow? Is that even an option? I'll have to double check.
Yeah. I meant the dwarf warrior though. 'Cause
Oh,
they
the
survived
dwarf
so
warrior.
Long.
I thought you meant the orc boy who took him out. Like, yeah,
No, they
maybe.
should have done that 2 turns ago.
Yeah,
they don't deserve an
they,
award.
They stink. Yeah, they're too busy fighting each other this
Apparently,
whole
yeah.
battle.
And then the boar chariot versus the dwarfs, since we had that stay and just slid the dwarfs over, the chariot didn't do anything because, of course, now it has no impact hits and everything.
Right.
Which left 4 attacks back from the dwarfs, which got 3 hits but no wounds. Again, strength
Tough
3
5.
versus tough 5 is really hard. But the chariot lost and fled. The dwarfs pursued but didn't catch.
Yep.
Seems like all is well, but then the chariot fled directly into a fanatic.
And died.
And so took 2 wounds, which was exactly enough to kill the chariot.
Correct.
So what a way to go.
Yep.
And that is where then you lost that loot point.
Yep. And that mattered too. There was a lot of little things that mattered.
Which is what you want.
Yep.
It's nicer to have a lot of little things that alter the course of the game rather than it feeling like one big swingy moment
Right.
lost the game for
What
you.
did it end up being? 18-16?
Yeah, so final score, Orcs had 16 loot points, and the
16.
Dwarfs had a combination of 6 glory points that they got from killing the trolls, and then still had 6 loot points on the cart and 6 on the auxiliary picks. So 18 versus 16.
I'm pretty pleased with that.
Yeah, it's nice to have a close game.
After seeing like what I thought, and that's what's beautiful, and I think we both said it probably multiple times on this cast over the episodes, but it's just fantasy's so cool because it's so crazy swingy.
But just somehow, most of the time, it comes back to a relatively
It seems to work
balanced,
out. It's like a roller coaster of emotions because
Yeah.
you're just like, oh my god! Like when the wizard died top of 2, I was like, oh no. But then, like later on, then when the fanatics are going off, and I'm like, oh no, I'm a scumbag. Oh no, I hate myself. And then it's like, oh, it's just crazy. And then like how the trolls happen, and then that troll situation ended up that whole flank exploded because of that. And then it's some of these BSB reroll things, and then the stone thrower scatters some of those crazy ones, and even that one direct hit that was out of this world. So just really back and forth, really interesting. I'd be curious to play the matchup again. I do find that the hatred, I think, did end up mattering in a lot of spots. I tried to remember it for the Night Goblins, but they're just so bad weapon skill, it didn't always really matter.
Yeah.
They just couldn't hurt anything. Usually I could get a couple of hits in, but then I have to get a 5 to wound.
Right.
And then they
still
have an
full
armor save.
Yeah.
So it's just tough. But I think the Orcs definitely have after I play the matchup, I think you've definitely got options to win for sure in this matchup because of just how speed is so important.
Mm-hmm.
What I've come away from this battle knowing is that the guy who has 300 Wolf Riders, 100% right choice, best unit in this book. Absolutely anything speed 9.
That's crazy.
And can do fast calf things. For 10 points a model or whatever, I think mine cost a little more than that because I gave him spears and stuff. But just amazing unit that can do so many different things. And Leadership 6 is not good, but it's just enough that you pass occasionally. And it's like
if you have enough of them,
right? And it's like I don't know what the statistics are for that, but it's probably like 40% that you pass because I think a 7 is like 58%. Or don't quote me on that. But it's around probably a little under 50-50. It's worse than a coin flip, but it's probably around that. And it's just enough that if they flee or whatever and they don't come back that turn and they don't go off, you'll probably get them back the next one.
Especially if they have a musician.
And that too. And then they're fast enough so that when they do rally, they're still going to participate in the battle.
Yeah.
So many other units, if they flee 20 inches off the board or whatever, 20 inches, I don't know, they get a big flee roll, they get double 6s for an infantry unit. That's like 2 turns they're going to have to spend before they're even doing anything relevant again.
Yeah.
Whereas these guys, they rally, they pivot, boom. I'm back. Like, are you near me? Love them. So what was the MVP you think for the Dwarf Army? For me, it was Wolf Riders for the Orcs, so I don't know.
I would say probably the Slayers because which is weird to say because I think ultimately it was really your choice to charge in the trolls that made them the MVP. Because they would have done nothing if you hadn't done that.
Again, that goes to that whole thing I struggle with, because it's like, what do I do there, right?
Yeah, and you would have won the game if you just ran away with the trolls, because they would have never caught you. They didn't have any shooting over there, and then they wouldn't have gotten those 6 points.
Yep.
And then the game would have been more boring.
Yes. So I like to think it was a Pyrrhic victory, or maybe that's probably the wrong way to say that. I gave up something, but I gained something else. Hopefully the better thing.
Yes.
But yes, no. Those sorts of situations. I'm curious how you guys handle them. Especially because we're playing 6th edition. We're not playing the old world. We're not at the Vegas GT Supreme Omega blow your house down tournament. You know, if you're there, I could see doing that, because everybody's there expecting it. But when I can't imagine 6th edition players aren't playing with their friends. But are they all just going like, oh yeah, I'm going to back up 6 inches or whatever and avoid combat and secure the bag or whatever, you know?
Yeah. And I think that comes down to what we talked about a little bit when we were going over the narrative scenario you ran for us a few weeks ago. And the idea that some players, what they like out of the experience is the opportunity to realize that and make that choice so that they win. And that's what is fun for them. Whereas for me, the fun thing is, wow, a cool thematic story unfolded, which was the trolls charged the slayers and we got to see the slayers do the exciting thing that they're supposed to do, which rarely gets to happen, it feels like.
Right.
And that's what makes me excited about it, whether that goes well or poorly for me when I'm able to focus on that. So, yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to just what you want out of the experience and, whether you're playing games that are going to, and with opponents that will allow you both to get that or not.
Right. And jumping off of that, too, were there any surprises, I guess, for the dwarves that you've learned, / orcs and goblins that you've learned now that we've seen them in action ourselves? What do you have any takeaways based on that?
It's not really a surprise, but it's just besides the Slayers, the MVPs were definitely just the Quarrelers and Thunderers. They did the most damage.
Yeah, they just killed a lot of guys.
Stuff. So oh yeah, the Dwarfs having a gun line is good. Go, who would have guessed?
Yeah, fair enough. Leadership 9 with a BSB.
Yeah, exactly.
Works out.
And yeah, I mean, thinking back to like if we had taken the organ gun and that was just sitting there blasting away.
An organ gun in this
unit,
scenario would have been. Can you imagine it in that little gap?
Yeah,
between those fours. Well, no man's land in front of that. But
yeah, as far as the Orcs and Goblins, I think again, maybe it's not really a surprise, but just really solidified the perspective that there's just so many little rules.
Yes.
And you can take an army that minimizes those, but we took an army that had a lot of those special rules and a lot of things to remember.
Yeah.
And a lot of the randomness really went all over the place with like the miscast chart being brutal, the animosity, the error boys just basically not doing anything most of the game. Rough with that. And then obviously the squigs just exploding before they did anything intentional. And then the entire unit became loose immediately. That was the first thing they really did.
Yeah, no,
so
you're right.
Total chaos.
And part of that's my deployment too. For sure. So I don't want to say that was entirely the fault of the unit or whatever.
Yeah.
But
and I don't want to say that any of those things are bad. It just it just solidified the fact that there's so much randomness.
Right.
And you have to be ready to engage with that and walk through all of those things and make them all happen, which definitely lengthens the game.
I would say if you're a new player, don't buy a squig herd as your first unit, unless that, I mean, well, you know what? Don't let me tell you what to do. If you love squigs, go buy the squig herd, but from like a gameplay perspective and like playing the game, like I'll be honest, by turn 5, after doing that a few times, I was like, okay, let's get this.
Yeah.
Like, I want the scattering nonsense to kind of be done.
Yeah. Just the fanatics didn't feel like too much, but then when there was like now 3 times as much of that happening when the squig unit exploded, that got a bit much.
It's fun maybe for the initial thing, because it's like, oh wow, what's going to happen? But then after that, when you have to do every turn afterwards.
And since the squigs can bounce.
Yes.
And then they're in a crowded spot of the battlefield.
It quickly turns into, okay, scatter again. Oh, I hit 2 attacks. Okay. I pick up a guy. Okay. What way do I scatter now? Okay. Oh, back. Oh, I hit my other guy there. 2 attacks. Oh, he missed both times. Okay, pick him up. And just literally did that. I hope that comes across on the video. I don't know, because we got pretty lucky because
Yeah.
obviously after everything died in that spot,
There was a lot of open
There was a
space.
lot of
Yeah.
open space, but it felt like towards the end it was a lot of squigs eating squigs.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, what are we even doing here? I guess it looks funny, and it's kind of like, oh, what's happening over there? They're eating each other. But to me, it from a game design perspective, this
Yeah.
is me being really heady and weird about it. I don't know if it's super elegant.
Definitely not
Because
elegant.
when another unit breaks, we just remove it, right? And I get this isn't an average unit here, right? But it's just like, what is it doing? Like
Causing chaos.
causing chaos, both for you as a person and it on your table. I don't know. I don't want to belay the point anymore. We've probably been recording a lot. Overall, I thought it was a really good battle. I learned a lot. I kind of want to play Orcs and Goblins again. I think I would do a lot of things differently, but that's, I think, what anybody would say after their first battle.
You'd hope
Probably
so.
any
Yeah.
army.
Mm-hmm. Are there any particular, obviously we talked about this, that we had a very limited roster of units to choose from. Are there any units you would want that you didn't have access to this time, or larger unit sizes than you had access to,
I
etc.?
want more boys. I want
More units of them, or larger unit of one?
both. More boys in general.
Yeah.
I really like the Orc boys. I like a biggin unit. I would love to try Savage Orc boys. I will admit that would kind of make me turn into feeling like I'm playing Khorne, which is fine. But I like the idea of it. Maybe a one-off unit, which is kind of cool because you can have a Khorne unit in your otherwise non-Khorne
Yeah.
army. So that's kind of neat. Then there is I would like to try the Giant. I think them being stubborn in this book stands out.
I would
we
like to see that as well. Yeah.
We don't play with a Giant all that often. We've seen the Slave Giant for the Ogres, but
Yeah, for the reasons you mentioned, that's
Yeah.
kind of a lot worse than
he's been
this one.
significantly worse despite his slight point cost decrease. And Trolls I want to try again too. I don't think they got a fair shake because I literally just moved them up. They failed stupidity on a really bad turn.
Yeah.
And then
you made the
and then-
thematic choice.
Well,
with
yeah,
them.
and then and you know what? Props to John because he's like, hey, there's those trolls. Let me put the unit that's called the Troll Slayers, boom,
Right in front of
and
them,
I'm
yeah.
like, well, what do I do, guys? So I guess I'll charge, right? Because
Yeah.
it's so we did that, and I would like to give them another chance to maybe show their stuff because I think they've got a lot of options there. I would love to see them in an Empire against Empire. I think
yeah.
they could show their stuff a little more. Like
Then we can recreate that awesome piece of art from the
Yeah.
Empire book of them fighting the
right,
swamp trolls.
that too. But I think I mentioned in the review, I think they have some game against Heavy Cav and Empire Knights because they got regen.
Yeah.
And they vomit, ignoring armor, all this stuff that I didn't really get to do or didn't allow them to do, pardon me, because of just the situation. I would love to try Black Orcs. I don't know. I want to try everything again. The only thing, I'll be honest, I came away, I'm not a big Squig this rule fan. I like Squigs, but I don't like... That was a little much for me. I think I agree with you. I think the initial poof out was cool, and maybe you'll see it in the video where we're like, and they're going all over the place. After that, though, after 3 turns of
Yeah.
I'm hitting my own guy, removing guys, it just felt like busy work. And I think that could be done more elegantly, and I'd be curious to double check how they did that in later editions, how they ran that unit. So, but I'd like to run it this way. Maybe a couple more times.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
also
even just
actually
a
use
smaller
the
unit.
squig hoppers.
Yeah.
Which I didn't
Release
use.
them intentionally
Right.
early. Yeah.
So that would help too.
Yeah. And maybe a smaller unit
Yeah.
even just makes that less onerous.
That's true. Maybe that was a little too big. And again, I didn't know. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, is this really that big? It doesn't seem like it's that many. No,
Yeah.
it was a lot. So
Well, if any of you listeners take squig herds, let us know what's the size you tend to go with. We'd be
Right.
curious to hear and how you feel about the busy work of managing all of that once they go wild.
yes. I have no further thoughts because I could just talk forever about
Fair
this
enough.
game.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a note from John that he had
Oh.
on the scenario itself. In general, he seemed to enjoy the experience. He's a veteran war gamer in general, even though he was new to fantasy, and so picked things up quickly and moved things right along. I think made some good tactical decisions, but seemed
I
to
think he
enjoy the
played very
system.
well.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna like go home and buy an army and find other people to play with, but I think he enjoyed it, and I think he'd play it again if he comes and visits again.
Sure.
If we asked him to. But one of his thoughts about the scenario itself was that maybe making the cart move would be a little bit more interesting. So rather than the defender having kind of like moved off the road and created a defensive position, maybe you're just playing a lightning raid, which as the caravan's moving down the road, the attackers are attacking, and not that you're like trying to get it off the map or anything like that, but just to progress the objective, to make it a mobile objective, to create a more dynamic battlefield. And I agree with that, but I think, like we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, that would be very difficult for the dwarfs because they're so static. It would be hard for them to keep up with the thing moving.
Yeah.
But if you played with a different matchup and you had,
maybe the high elves are defending.
Yeah, that have a faster move, they've got cavalry, etc. Now that's totally interesting. So I think that as you're playing scenarios, even regular ones, but especially custom ones, don't be afraid to tweak them for the specific
matchups.
Yeah, matchups
you almost
that you have
to, really, because I think John brought up a great point with that, because if they even move and even adjusting maybe the speed that it does move. Let's say you want it to keep moving and it's high elves. Okay, maybe we can go a little faster with it moving to make them have to do something and not just sit in the corner. But if it's dwarves, maybe we can only have this thing move like 3 inches a turn, just so that by end of turn 4 it's moved a foot.
Yeah, but it is moving still.
But that's
so
sizable for a dwarf force moving a foot in any direction.
Yeah, and of course a dwarf pony is going to go a little slower than a high elf steed. So
and tweaking even just the numbers.
Yeah,
so
dive in there when you're doing your scenario planning and make those tweaks, and just try things out. That's what we're here to do.
Try things out. Learn new stuff.
But yeah, overall, I think the battle went well. I think it was exciting. Like we said, there's lots of fun ups and downs, lots of thematic moments, lots of cool characters doing cool things. Yeah. And
I think I want to keep Get Face around. Get Face.
I think you should.
Get Face is going to be a boy.
He earned a place in the annals.
Anybody
of
who kills a BSB in one round of combat is the guy.
Especially
for me.
A dwarf BSB. With Gromril armor.
Even though he didn't have all the fixins, I don't care. I love him now. He's great.
Yeah, that was great. And that's another great example of, if you bring the perspective that we're going to let the dice tell the story and we're going to be excited about that story as long as it's cool, then whether you're the dwarf player in that moment and Guto's getting chopped in half by Get Face, or you're the orc player and you're chopping in half the BSB, either way, that's an exciting moment. And that's exactly the type of thing that's described in the narrative blurbs in the army books and throughout the rule book and things, where you get this like duel happening between two characters and one of them gets chopped down. And that's exactly what we got to see happen here. And if you get yourself into the mindset where you can imagine that happening, and I love how you described, he's like twisting the axe in his hand and this little green magic flares up and things. And like, that's what I'm here to do, at least, is to make that happen, get the movie playing out in our heads as the dice are showing us which way it goes, that these systems are really just to help the story play out in a mostly plausible way, but that if the story was cool, then we all won because we showed up and got to experience a cool story together.
It was a pretty cool story, and I think especially in the video, if you've seen it already, it was so cool. I think we skimmed through it after the battle to like watch the dead piles rise on either side of the table. This was a bloody fight.
Game,
a lot of guys got ran down. A lot of guys got actually just chopped. A lot of times in fantasy, it's like, 4 guys died and then the unit got ran down, which in my headcanon is always like they got dispersed.
Maybe like another, they're not all dead, but they've been scattered.
Another like 2 or 3 maybe got chopped, but they just, they ran away. They went home. Mm-hmm. In this, it was like all the dwarves were like killed to a man. It felt like whole units just like pasted the battle. This would be like so red everywhere, or whatever color orc blood is. I think it's still red. I don't know. Tell me what color is orc blood? Is it green? I don't even know. But I'm getting really off topic. Do you have any final comments? Final.
No, I think I'm just excited. I'm happy with how it went. I feel like the scenario created the feeling that we wanted it to create. I think it showcased, this battle showcased the armies and some of the stuff that they can do. And maybe it didn't showcase their most competitive capabilities, but I think hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to this, and we would love to just hear your thoughts on what we could have done differently, or what we could tweak about the scenario, or what your favorite part of it was, etc. So let us know in the comments. But this has been Refused Flank.
Yeah.
And I don't have no idea what we're talking about next time. But we'll figure that out.
Well, you know what? Actually, before we do the sign out, let us know if there's a matchup you'd like to see. Because I had such a good time coming up with all this. I could see this just the weird matchup series being a fun kind of returning bit. So let us know if there's a matchup you'd like to see in the future, one we haven't done.
Yeah. Or anything else you'd like to hear an episode about, Warhammer related or other wargaming related. But we've got some ideas in the
percolating
on the docket, but we don't know exactly what that next episode is going to be yet. So it'll be a surprise for everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Cool.
This has been Refused Flank. I'm Grant.
And I'm Cam.
Have a good one.
Bye.